Here.
Deputy Mayor Gustin.
Here.
Councilmember Pruitt.
Here.
Councilmember Katz.
Here.
Councilmember Schwartz.
Here.
Mayor Hamadian.
Here.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by Resolution 269-2013, setting the 2014 meeting dates, sending a copy to the record in the Jewish Standard, filing a copy in the Township Clerk's office, and placing it on the Municipal Building Bulletin Board, and the Mayor hereby directs that this statement be included in the minutes.
Good evening. Welcome to tonight's meeting. Tonight, we also have with our Township Manager, William Broughton, our Clerk, Jamie Ambolina, Executive Assistant to the Manager, Issa Bassi, and our Senior Clerk, Jennifer Jackson. We also have with us our Township Attorney, Stanley Tourist. The next televised council meeting will take place on Tuesday, March 4th, 2014, with legal opening to begin at 7 p.m. and public input to begin at 8 p.m. The Township Council will be sponsoring an Affordable Care Act information seminar at 11 a.m. Saturday, March 15th, and at 7 p.m. on Wednesday, March 19th. The event will be held in the Cheryl Miller Porter Center in Teaneck High School, 100 Elizabeth Avenue. The seminar will be presented by Ms. Sheila Thorne of the National Partnership to End Health Disparities Region 2 Health Equity Council. Township Council met in closed session. We talked about contract negotiations, met with the legal issues with the Board of Adjustment, legal issues with Oprah, and potential purchase of real estate 671 Pomander Walk. First item on tonight's agenda is presentations by New Jersey Department of Transportation, Route 4 Bridge over Palisade Avenue, 6 CSX Railroad Bridge Replacement Project. You guys would like to come up?
Mayor, good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Debbie Hurt. For those of you that
Great. Thank you.
I just told my associate to come. Good evening, Mayor, council members. I'm Debbie Hurt. And for those of you that don't know me, I work in the Office of Community Relations at the Department of Transportation. I'm a liaison between the public and the public officials. As the Mayor noted, we are here tonight to come make a presentation to you on the project that we have, Route 4 over the Palisades Avenue and CSX Railroad Bridge Replacement Project. I'm going to introduce our project manager, Nick Doges, and then he will introduce the rest of the team that we have here this evening, and then they'll make their presentation. Nick, you want to stand up? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for having us. As Debbie said, this is for the this presentation, the DOT presentation is for the...
Great. Just your name for the record.
Oh, I'm sorry. Nick Doges. I'm the DOT's project manager for the Route 4 Palisades, Windsor Road, over CSX project. We have some presentation boards and a microphone. So, any suggestions how we should do this? Should we address the audience?
Can you move that microphone over?
So the presentation is for council, so I guess...
Okay.
So we can see it.
We can just talk loudly?
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, so... Good. We'll take the microphone. Okay. Will it reach? Yeah, I guess. Yeah, we're gonna do. Yeah, we'll bring them over. Yeah, we'll bring them over. Sorry, while we get our display boards together. Engineers are nothing without pictures. Sorry, guys. Yeah, I always find it kind of funny. I'm from Trenton. I come up here to discuss a project that's in your backyard. But as you know, what we call the Route 4 Palisades Bridge is basically the project limits, aside from just the bridge itself, actually extends from Garrison Avenue, vicinity of Garrison Avenue, to easterly direction to Queen Anne Road. Primary purpose of the project is to replace the bridge. The bridge is structurally and functionally deficient, which means the bridge has to get replaced. We have our project team, which everyone has a little bit of the presentation to do. So I don't want to repeat or say too many things that is going to be repeated over and over again. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to hand over the mic to Kuldip Singh. Should I introduce everyone or do it by themselves? Okay. So our design consultant is Parsons Brinkerhoff, and Kuldip Singh is from Parsons. Joe Mumber from Parsons, Marilyn Fox from Parsons, and Steve Balzano from Parsons. So I believe Goldip and Steve have a little bit of a presentation, and I guess we'll take it from there. Thank you very much.
Good evening, gentlemen. As Nick said, this board shows the roadway improvements, that the project starts from Garrison Avenue and it goes to Queen Anne Avenue Bridge. We are not replacing those two bridges. We are not touching those two bridges. They are in relatively good shape. We are only replacing the bridge over CSX Railroad. It's about 500-foot long bridge, 78-foot wide. And what we see here is that this is the typical section of the bridge. It shows how many lanes will be there. That currently there are 2 lanes going toward New York City and 1 in the opposite, and 3 in the opposite direction. When we finish the bridge, there will be 3 lanes in each direction on the bridge. In addition, there will be 10-foot shoulders, and there will be 1 6-foot sidewalk on the bridge. What you see here, this is Bell Avenue. As per our accident analysis, we found that there are a number of accidents happening at the intersection of Bell Avenue and Route 4 eastbound. And the primary reason for that is that there is no acceleration lane from Bell Avenue to the traffic going eastbound. So as a part of the improvement, we are adding an acceleration lane from Bell Avenue up to the bridge. So it will start from here and it will go extend across the bridge. Other thing that you see here is that this shows the roadway section which is on the approach roadway, which is on both sides of the bridge. That on what you see here, the green patches here, these are the parklands and the wooded areas, the green belt, which is there on either side. And we have been coming here for a number of years now, and what we heard from the local officials is that minimize impacts to the green belt. So what DOT has done, we have implemented all the solutions that we could to minimize impacts to the green belt. So what you see here is at the approach roadways, we will be putting high retaining walls to contain the embankment. And those retaining walls will be there at all 4 corners of the bridge. Steve, can what you see on this board, this is the proposed bridge. The existing bridge is about 500 foot long. The proposed bridge is, again, slightly longer, about 508. Existing bridge is 8 spans. The new bridge will have 5 spans. All depends on the economy, that the lesser spans is more economical to build. And the new bridge will be slightly higher because the vertical clearance over the railroad is substandard, and the vertical clearance at Windsor Road, that is substandard. So we will be raising the bridge to improve the vertical clearances. And what you see here is the blue splash here. The DOT will be putting proposed detention basin below the bridge. So we will not be acquiring any right-of-way on the side to put the detention basins. The DOT will be I will show you a display that the water detention is all being done within the existing right-of-way. Steve. This board shows the stage construction. The bridge will be replaced in 3 stages. We will be building the south side first. We will be maintaining 4 lanes of traffic on this bridge at peak hours most of the time. And one thing to note is that we will be building the south side first, and 4 lanes of traffic stay on the existing bridge. and then after that we put 2 lanes of traffic on the new bridge, and we build the middle half. And after that, we move all 4 lanes of traffic onto the new bridge and replace the rest of it. Steve, can we? This board shows the same project area essentially. What it shows is the layout of the detention basins and the public utilities. This is the railroad, that's the Route 4, and this is Windsor Road, and this is Palisade Avenue. And these blue splotches that you see, these are the proposed detention basins which we will build below the bridge. And these blue rectangles, these are the proposed detention basins which will be built by the side of Route 4, again within the existing right-of-way. We are not acquiring any right-of-way to put these basins there. This is the cross-section that you see, which we have taken at this location. What you see here is shoulder here, and the yellow area is the lanes. And this is the detention basin, which will be underground. When we finish, all you see is the grassed area, just like the park, the way you have it. But we will have the underground detention there. The water from these detention basins, it will be diverted to the township-owned drainage pipes. That's where it's going today. That's where it will keep on going in future.
Mr. Mayor, can I interrupt for a second? I'm sorry. There just seems to be, I'm sure everything is wonderful, but I think it seems to be there's like a fundamental disconnect between what I think this council wants today versus what many other councils wanted in the past. And I fear that we're putting in additional improvements that are going to memorialize what's there today, when reality is Route 4, especially Route 4 East, going to the busiest bridge in the world as we know it, is you've got 2 lanes. And the way you're doing it and the way you're showing it, and I know because something that really was popped out was, that you've been here a few times and this is what the council's been emphasizing. The way you're doing it and the way you're showing it with the retaining walls and the structures, etc., will only further those 2 lanes. When I think today, we have a need, not just the Teaneck residents, but all the residents living in the communities that are driving through Route 4 to expand that to 3 lanes. Now, I know that, I don't know what your budget is, and I know that that's very easy to say, but if you're going to do improvements today, and it's going to hinder or categorize the ability for you to make 3 lanes in the future, I don't think that this is a project that we should be doing. This is my personal opinion. I think that we should be properly planning, and I don't know if you've thought about this, but we should be properly planning to make an expansion to at least 3 lanes in that whole area. And you mentioned the green belt. We're very sensitive to the green belt, but at this point, the green belt's become the brown belt, and it's really environmentally not good for the community. Safety, traffic-wise, it's not good for the community because people are just driving through River Road and speeding up to try to cut through, creating a safety hazard for the residents. So I don't want you to go through this whole, show when I think you're really going down the wrong road. All right, I'm sorry to interrupt. Now, I'm sure it was on everybody's mind, but I was the rude one.
Yeah, just to I guess maybe add on to that, to see this project go from Garrison to Queen Anne, that's great, but it doesn't go from Garrison to Queen Anne. It goes from east of Garrison to west of Queen Anne. And that cuts out the 2 problems that we actually have. 700,000 people that live west of Teaneck in Bergen County come down Route 4, and then while they're passing our greenbelt, they're cursing the traffic because we have this bottleneck that severely impacts quality of life, not just for Teaneck residents along that roadway, but for hundreds of thousands of Bergen County residents that get stuck in traffic in Teaneck. And, if we look at the Garrison Ave Bridge, well, the Garrison Ave Bridge is not in fine shape, right? It's a concrete bridge. It was built in the 30s. We know that it's deficient. But it's not deficient enough to justify budgetary prioritization. right? That's the reality. It's deficient, like 60% of all bridges in New Jersey. And to see that, that we can, obviously we need to fix the bridge over the railroad, right? It's not high enough. It doesn't meet requirements. It's crumbling, right? We get that. But, hey, if we're already on site, if we're already here, there's also another huge problem that needs to be addressed. And if it's not being addressed now, how would it be addressed in the future?
Yeah, I can speak to that. Thank you very much. Actually, and I appreciate you bringing up the Greenbelt concerns and your position on it now. And I do appreciate it, and I thank you for it, because we are going to need your complete and total support when we go through the environmental process. And Steve's going to discuss a little bit more of that process and how the difficulties and what it's going to take to work through that. And again, your support is absolutely, positively necessary for that. So I thank you for that. Now, just to reply to hopefully both of you gentlemen, the DOT understands that ultimately we're going to have to replace all the bridges through this area. Right now, the way we rate bridges is, yes, they're all potentially deficient, but not deficient enough yet to warrant a project. And that's really the gist of your comment, and I understand that. What we are trying to do with the projects that we do have, Teaneck Road and Palisades Avenue, is to bring the bridges out wide enough for potential future expansion. Now, within this immediate area, we are going to have 3 lanes in each direction with a shoulder. The third lane eastbound is right now an auxiliary lane because it starts and drops pretty quickly. Because of Garrison Avenue. And so between the 2 other bridges, obviously that's the pinch point. You can't replace all the bridges, like I said.
Is there anything that's a part of this project that would negatively impact the future project of getting rid of that bottleneck? With the retaining walls, with where you have water retention in Killicheck Park, those issues, are they going to be problems that, make it more difficult when the time is right, when the bridge is actually on Route 4, as opposed to just
Council members, if we could just hold our questions to the end, let them get through their presentations, and then we'll go.
These questions are very important. If they draw plans that are counter to every one of our feelings and the community's sentiment, obviously maybe not unanimous sentiment, but then why should we waste their time to go through something where they have an impression that this is what Teaneck wants, when it's not what I don't believe the majority of Teaneck or the commuters want.
I understand.
Yeah.
I understand what we're trying to do, but they have a presentation and they're coming to give it. After that, we can pick it apart and say this is not what we want. But I think that right now, let's let them finish and then move forward.
Right. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Just so you know, we are widening as we come to bridge replacement projects. We are the intent is to widen all of those for future expansion of the roadway. Obviously, you can't do it. You're not going to gain anything to widen roadway when there's not a bridge, because you still have to go through a bridge. So it's going to be start, stop all over the place. So in order for it to be, a cohesive corridor, has to be done throughout, and that has to happen as the bridges get replaced, unfortunately. And like I said, this one is to a point where it needs to be replaced. And I know funding is always an issue, but it also, getting back to the deficiency, it also has to reach a certain deficiency before it qualifies for either rehabilitation or replacement. It's just the rules.
Maybe just so that we can maybe all put this into context. If we could put aside the bridge isn't deficient enough to justify there's finite resources for fixing bridges, I get that.
Sure.
But how deficient is that bottleneck? And does the bottleneck warrant being fixed? I mean, from our perspective, it's a huge quality of life issue, and from everything over the last 8 years that I've heard from NJDOT, nobody seems to really be concerned about that bottleneck when we're all greatly concerned about it.
Okay.
Understood.
Let me ask a question. From Bell Avenue to the Inglewood line is 2 miles.
Yes.
Okay. That's 2 miles of 2-lane highway. This project, I'd like to see a design for how the 2 miles will be handled. Well, now, you may do a piece of it.
Correct.
But I want to see the whole design so it fits. This way we're fixing a spot, and then it may not fit with the rest of it. Let's see what the whole thing looks like.
Well, Yeah, unfortunately, there's a scope for this particular project, and then the scope of what you're asking for is basically a long-range planning study, and this will need to get done long before that study is concluded.
No, I understand that. All I'm saying is, in order for me to be happy with the plan, it doesn't cost millions of dollars to design what will happen from Bell Avenue to the Inglewood line. It costs millions of dollars to do it.
No, it does cost.
But I want to see the whole plan, and then this little piece was just a part of it.
Well, that's well outside the scope of what we're doing here, and for sure of this presentation. Like I said, that is more of a long-range study.
Excuse me, Councilman, I just wanted to add, several years ago, we did a corridor study completely of Route 4 from Paramus all the way up to the GW Bridge. And I think that was when we initially came back and introduced a section of the roadway to be widened. And at that time, as you will remember, that was not a part of your plan. And obviously, you all have changed over the years about that feeling, which we certainly appreciate, as Nick noted earlier. But we do have a corridor study that is still on the books, shall we say, at the DOT. What they've done with that corridor study is that they have taken projects out incrementally to improve the corridor. They've done Margaret Street Bridge. We're going to be doing Teaneck Road Bridge. We're doing this one. We're doing Grand Avenue. We're going to be doing Jones Road Bridge. All of the bridges have to be done first, as Nick pointed out, before we can widen the roadway. So it's not to say that the roadway will never be widened. That will probably be coming in the very near future because it has to. With the amount of volume of traffic on this roadway, it's going to have to. But I think the DOT needs to make sure their bridges are safe to cross rather than have, a situation like they had in Minneapolis many years ago where it was a disaster.
I understand that, but when the description was being given to us, it looked like there was some pieces of it that would be in the way if we widen the whole thing down the road. I want to see the whole plan, from Bell Avenue to the Inglewood line, and then if you can do a piece of it, that's fine, but we need to see the whole piece. And the idea...
Not from Bell Avenue, from Garrison, because that's where the bottleneck starts.
Yeah, wherever it starts. The old council, and I wasn't there, was Greenway concerned.
Right.
This new council is interested in moving traffic to Teaneck.
Right. We understand that.
Okay.
Thanks, Debbie.
Just one, Mayor, I wondered if we could move this over there so people could see from the public. I think they're low.
So anyway, as Debbie mentioned, there was a study done for Route 4 within Teaneck. These are breakout projects of that study. And so the cohesive study has been done. We could probably... I haven't seen it. I wasn't involved back then. But I'm sure I could dig it up and provide you something. Should we continue with Colden?
Gentlemen, we were discussing the drainage improvements, and we were saying that we are putting 2 detention basins under the bridge and 1 or 1.5 on the side within the existing right-of-way, and the water coming out of these basins will keep on going to the existing township pipeline the way where it is going today. But our rate of discharge will be less than what it is today. We will be retaining water. Yes, sir. Okay. The other thing that what you see here is that there is a pole line which is running along Route 4 on the south side. It has mostly it's electric. There are other telephone facilities, and the cable is also hanging from it. We have been working with PSENG to come up with the relocation schemes because, number one, when we rebuild this bridge, that overhead line, it has to be out of our way of our contractor. It has to be temporarily out of our way, and then they have to find a way to relocate their facilities within the public right-of-way. We were looking at a number of schemes, a temporary scheme here, a permanent scheme, permanent relocation under the bridge, but eventually they came back, they said it will be difficult for them to maintain. What they are The scheme which they have presented is that they will be relocating that pole line along Bell Avenue, go down Sagamore, come up Palisade, and then from there it will be going underground along Davy Place up to Queen Anne, and then continue along Route 4. That is probably as expensive as the line would have been along Route 4. The estimate which is in the millions of dollars to relocate it. But the benefit for us is that we will be able to relocate this line before the bridge construction. We give them they will take about. Okay. They say they will take about 6 months to a year, which they can do before the bridge construction starts and get this line out of our way.
As far as the relocation scheme, does it, the way it's going to run now through several blocks of very close residential neighborhood?
Yes.
Is it going to change the height or size of the poles? What kind of impact is it going to have on those residential neighborhoods?
Okay, we asked this question to PSCNG, and they say that there is a pole line already running along this route for some reason.
And so they're just going to hang those lines on existing poles?
They will be we will be replacing those poles, and they will be taller poles.
They will be taller poles.
They will be taller poles. Yes.
The way you've described it up to this point is coming from Paramus, you get to Garrison Avenue and you go from 3 lanes down to 2. Coming from Garrison Avenue, you go from 2 lanes to the bridge, which is 3 lanes, and then back to 2 lanes. Is that true?
Yes.
Isn't that kind of a dangerous changeover?
Okay. Allow me to bring the plan up, the right plan, so I can answer it. What you see here is this is Garrison Avenue, and that's Route 4 coming from Route 17. And there are 2 lanes going toward New York City. They will. The pinch point is the Garrison Road Bridge. We will have 2 lanes, and through lanes keep on coming, and we are adding a 3rd lane from Bell Avenue. So there is from here. On the bridge, we have 3 lanes, and that 3rd lane gets dropped just before the Queen Anne. So we.
In the entrance of the highway, entrance ramp and exit ramp. It's called an auxiliary lane.
So it goes back to 2 lanes before you get to Inglewood.
Yes, going toward Inglewood, we'll back to 2 lanes.
The other question is, what happens while this construction is going on to all that traffic? Where does it go?
Well, we will be maintaining 4 lanes of traffic on Route 4. So traffic stays where it is. Yes.
Okay.
So we will be maintaining 4 lanes. We will be building the bridge in 3 parts by maintaining 4 lanes of traffic on Route 4. I'm close. The right of way. That's good enough. Okay. Now, whenever you see this board, it shows the right of way impacts that we have some extra right of way on the south side of Route 4, but on the north side we are tight. The way we are replacing this bridge is that at the railroad, the right-of-way width is 100 foot, and we are putting a bridge in that right-of-way which is 99 foot and 9 inch wide. So we are using the all existing right-of-way to fit the bridge in. And the same typical section of the road or width continues on the sides. When we finish, the project will fit very well within the existing right-of-way, but we need some space to build it. The requirement is that those long retaining walls, we need to give the contractor some working space to build those retaining walls. We think about 10 foot. On the south side, that working space we can accommodate within the existing right-of-way. On the north side, we have to acquire the right-of-way. It's all township-owned property. We think it's So whatever you see in red, that's the area that we need to acquire. We can acquire a permanent maintenance easement, or the DOT can acquire it in fee. But our DOT's experts say that it will cost the same money. So what you see in the red here, that is the area that we need to acquire permanently to maintain those walls and to build those retaining walls. Also,
I'm sorry. Have you done a sit down with the manager or a site survey with the manager so that he can identify exactly what property from where to where you're talking about?
Yes, we made a presentation.
You did, you said? You were there. You went there.
Speaking about those properties, do you acquire them and pay for them,
yes,
or is that by eminent domain?
Even eminent domain is compensated.
Yeah.
But yes, it's an acquisition fee.
In other words, you're going to pay Teaneck for the land they have to use on the highway.
Yes.
It's not housing or anything like that. It's, little strips of land that may need to be taken along the roadway.
So the township would be...
Yes.
Township would get paid. Township property.
Gentlemen, the other two parcels we need is at Route 4 and Bell Avenue. The curb returns, they are kind of tight there. To open them up, we need to acquire a small strip of land there.
That acquisition at the Bel Ave
Yes.
on-ramp, now that's Green Acres encumbered parkland.
Yes, we are aware of that. We are going to discuss the Green Acres issue after I finish the technical part here. If you add up all these red areas, which we are saying we will acquire in fee, it adds up to about quarter acre. That's the total of all the 6 strips that we propose. Other thing to note is that we are installing ITS signs here. There is going to be an overhead structure with 2 ITS signs, one facing each way. That goes close to Bell Avenue here.
Could you explain what ITS is?
The Intelligence Transportation System, the variable message signs.
The big boards that go over the highway that are the VMS, they come up with signs like 10 minutes to the GW bridge. Yeah. That's what the ITS is.
I guess I'm familiar with those in maybe more urban or more denser highway. I'm not familiar with them right in the middle of a residential neighborhood. Is that really a requirement of the project?
At this point, yes, but we are coordinating this effort with our the driving studies, with our ITS people to see if there was an opportunity to move it.
Yeah, because quite frankly, that's a crummy location for such intrusive signage.
We are, in fact, in the location.
Is there a requirement every X number of feet of road you have to have one of these signs? Like, what would require it to be there?
I'm sure there are requirements. I just don't know.
Look, I just, so you can move on, I don't think that everybody, if I can speak for my colleagues, is going to be in favor of that sign being put there. Okay. So let's just move.
Okay, and in addition to the sign there is going to be a camera there. Same thing, ITS camera. At the same location. So we were proposing to acquire a temporary construction easement to put that ITS sign there. Another thing to note is, in order to install the girders for the new bridge, we need to park the cranes at all 4 corners of the bridge so that they can pick up the girders and put it on top of the piers. For that, we need temporary construction easements, which will involve the cutting of some trees there. So those are the easements at all 4 corners. And this is my last board here. When we rebuild the bridge, we do not plan to close the local roads for a long duration, but there will be some times when we need to close the local roads during construction for maybe a day, 2, maybe for a week. At that time, this bridge, which is there over the railroad at Sagamore Avenue, that's what we will be using to detour traffic locally. Also, this bridge, which is a Route 4 bridge at Queen Anne Road, we will be using that to move the traffic. This bridge over Sagamore, that will also be used to divert pedestrian traffic during some stages when we cannot maintain pedestrian traffic on the Route 4 bridge. That's all I have about the technical presentation.
Question.
Yes, sir.
At no time is the traffic from Route 4 going to go into the neighborhood?
No. Our highway traffic stays on Route 4.
I'm looking for some kind of magic, because an awful lot of traffic travels Route 4 and you're going to be disrupting it.
No, we will be maintaining two lanes at all times, so that should be sufficient to hold traffic there at peak hours. And that's the best we can do. We have to build this bridge, so we need space to build it too. So 2 lanes is all we can do, and that seems sufficient to maintain traffic.
When is this project scheduled to begin?
One start. It's done or start?
No, start.
Okay. The design of this project is likely to continue up to 2016, and then 2017, 18, 19. It's about a 3-year construction that we anticipate for this.
So the residents will be inconvenienced for 3 years?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
And this will be done during off-peak hours?
Well,
no.
No, it will be done at
peak
during peak hours, but we will be maintaining traffic the best we can do.
And there may be nighttime work as well. It depends on the contract.
Question about the retaining wall. You talk about retaining walls.
Yes, sir.
You're not talking about the sound barrier type walls that we see alongside Route 80 or Route 95. You're talking about retaining walls just up to the level of the roadway.
Yes, sir.
No high walls is what we're talking about.
No high walls.
Okay.
Now I'll request Steve Balzano. He will be talking about the environmental issues connected with this project. My purpose was to explain and present the footprint of the project, of what these impacts are and why those impacts are there.
Stephen Balzano, Parsons Brinkhoff. I'm the environmental specialist on the project. The project, and I hope the point was clarified to address your concerns, is nothing in the design of the project would preclude the complete widening of Route 4 and 3 lanes in each direction. Some of the accommodations, like the retaining walls that are being incorporated into this, are necessary to allow for that 3-lane widening, but still minimize the encroachment of the road improvements into the adjoining lands. And that's important because the next phase of the project, in order to advance the design and hopefully get this built as quickly as possible, is we have to go through an environmental approval process. And because of the lands adjoining the Route 4 corridor are public park land, both the Federal Highway Authority and the New Jersey Department of Environment Protection both have to approve the use of public park land for road improvement purposes. So it's really that's what we've done, is recognizing the need to accommodate the 3-lane section in each way, recognizing the need to maintain a minimum of 2 lanes of traffic during construction in each way. We've tried to minimize, but can't completely eliminate, encroachment to the adjoining parkland. As Coldup indicated, that encroachment is generally quite minimal, but it's an encroachment nonetheless, and it's also important to recognize that because of the designation of green belt, and because the green belt is to a large extent public parkland, that removal of trees is also a great concern to the project, because the agencies will construe that as an impact on parkland. So we've gone through great steps through, like retaining walls, minimizing the maintenance easement requirements, minimizing the amount of construction staging area that's necessary to actually build a bridge, to try to minimize the amount of tree clearing. There is still going to be minimal tree clearing along the corridor. Generally, it's just a narrow sliver. And I'm going to go to this sheet. which you can see in dark green. It's a very narrow sliver of trees that will be cleared along the edge of the roadway. The most significant clearing really is at three locations at 3 points, corners of the bridge. It's called up indicated. That's necessary for the placement of the crane and the movement of the crane so that they could actually place the girders in places of replacing the section of bridge without interfering with the movement of traffic along those 4 active lanes that will be maintained during construction. Again, and the rest of it is quite minimal, generally associated with the intersection improvements, minor roadway widening, but there will be some tree clearing. As we move forward in the project, there will be opportunities to enhance the green belts. The department will provide some reforestation opportunities, working with the township and the various interested parties within the township to reforest where that portion of the green belt where the trees have died or they may be thinned out. So there will be an opportunity to provide an enhancement within the project corridor to offset the impacts of losses of the tree associated with the project. But to move forward, the Department of Transportation needs the support of the township. In the absence of support of the township for the utilization of the parkland as proposed, the Department of Environment Protection probably will not approve the project and will not approve the improvements. They're not as sensitive sometimes to the traffic implications and roadway impacts. The Department of Transportation has done a great job trying to balance protection of the parkland along with the improvements to the transportation that's necessary within the township. But to move this to the next step, we will require a resolution of support from the township. That resolution of support is just really an acknowledgement that you support the need for the project, an acknowledgement that there is impacts to parkland that are unavoidable, acknowledgement that we've taken steps to minimize those impacts as best as we can. The Department of Environmental Protection will have to provide replacement parkland. We have worked with the township manager to identify surplus lands within that are owned by the municipality that aren't currently parkland, and we're looking at acquiring some of that parcel of land that the township currently owns and include it within your parkland inventory.
When is what's your timeline for this? When do you need a resolution by?
No, it's like everything else. The sooner the better. The sooner we acquire the resolution of support, the sooner we can move the project forward.
Okay, so there's nothing to say that you need it tonight, right?
No, absolutely. We're not here. We're here to
the other
protect
thing
the project.
is, did you make this presentation at the county also, and did they have any comments? Okay, so if we could if we can get these presentations, I'm going to go over. You guys can have your time. I'm just going to say a few things that I need. If we could just get these presentations in a PowerPoint presentation, and then just bullet points of what we went over, sure, to answer all these questions, and we can get that before the next meeting. We'll put it on our agenda to discuss it, and then we'll discuss about if we're going to be supporting the resolution or what else we need to make a decision.
If we can clarify, and I don't know if this is a question for you or maybe my attorney, if we were to withhold a supporting resolution, bridge just doesn't get rebuilt, crumbles and falls? I mean, do we actually have any leverage here?
Well, the concern is under federal highway rules and under DEP rules, the requirement is to avoid impacts to parkland. We are justifying that we require encroachments to impact the parkland because of the public health and safety concerns associated with the inadequacy of the existing road, and that widening the road is necessary to maintain safe and efficient transportation through the township. If the township withholds that, approvals for the improvements that are necessary to accommodate that 3-lane section, the DEP and the federal highways may very well decline Department of Transportation's request to accommodate the widening of the road, and then in doing so force the design of the project to go back to what would be considered by everybody, I think, as an inadequate section, essentially maintaining the 2 lanes. because they can accommodate a replacement of the bridge as in kind without encroaching or minimizing the encroachment of parkland. So your resolution of support is extraordinarily important to signal to the other agencies that have approval authority that you agree with and support the encroachment because of the needed improvements.
Thank you. And if you could also add on to that corridor study, please. Thanks.
Just one follow-up on that. Can we endorse the project with some modifications, like the RT signage that is entirely inappropriate in that location? And so, yes, we realize all of the things that are necessary as far as encroachment on parkland. We realize it's necessary for safe and efficient transportation. However, we do not endorse...
I think...
I'm wondering what leeway we have to weigh in at this point. I think everyone here feels that this project is far from ideal. However, we don't want to see a 5-lane bridge go in there when we know a 6-lane bridge is what is needed. Even if we're not getting everything we want, I think that there is, so my colleagues understand that there's the opportunity for us to leverage some of our concerns now, even with the full understanding that this is not perfect, that by not supporting it, the alternative is even worse.
Right, and that's what I was going to say, that obviously I want to see the details up close, but I do support it, but the resolution is also going to be that your firm commitment that nothing you build will hinder the ability to do a 3-lane in the future. Meaning that is something that I'd like to see. Continuation along the Route 4 corridor. Yes, we can provide clarifying language.
Yeah.
Be included in
Can we go one step further and actually plan that continuation?
If it was up to me and if I had control over it.
Because we
renewable hours for you.
Because we will have a very difficult time turning it down, but we don't have anything to give us any kind of solace that the 2 miles of the 2 lanes will be done anything to in the future. We want to be able to see, here is the plan for the whole thing, and here is the part that we're working on now. I don't think that's a very difficult concept.
If I can, as you're fully aware, this has been around for a long time. The process of developing engineering details for transportation improvements takes a very long period of time. And they are advanced based upon a very defined scope, a beginning and an end point of a project. The way this project came to fruition is a bridge replacement project. It's not a roadway widening project. Everybody recognizes the concerns for future widening of the roadway. To modify that scope at this point in time and to turn a bridge replacement into a roadway widening corridor study would be a...
No, but I think I'm not saying that. I'm saying the plan you have is the plan you have. We want to see, as part of the leverage that we have, a plan for the entire 2 miles.
We tried that already.
That may exist.
Councilman, I received I received a copy of a letter that was sent by Mr. Broughton to the Commissioner Simpson of the DOT back on September 10th. And I believe it was based on a meeting that he had given you a briefing on this project after we had an officials briefing with him, with his bringing your concerns to that meeting about the widening of Route 4 throughout the corridor. And the letter was sent down on behalf of the council to the commissioner, and a letter was sent back to him from my assistant commissioner, Anthony Attanasio, reiterating that these bridge projects are purposely being built with 3 lanes, one of which we call an auxiliary lane, just so it helps with the exiting and acceleration of the highway drivers. That in the future, if the roadway, the department plans on widening the roadway, all of these bridges will be ready to accept that 3rd lane on the rest of the main line. The bridges will all be 3 lanes, all from Hackensack all the way out to Fort Lee. And that way it'll be much easier to come in and widen just the roadway itself and not have to go back and redo all the bridges.
What happens to the acceleration lane then?
It becomes a through lane. So we do have it on record, as I said, that the commissioner does have the letter from you.
I'm not giving you a hard time. I'm just saying that we want you to begin to plan the 2 miles that pass through Teaneck and to show us something.
To me, Henry, and I definitely appreciate you asking what your insistence, and I fully agree with that. I just don't want to pass up an opportunity that our prior councils, who completely, to be completely blunt, screwed us and turned down the job with Greenbelt. I mean, it's a complete travesty. We should take the picture off the wall. I like the state's finances are. I don't think the state's finances are in that great shape, and I really don't want to blow this opportunity and have them come back and say, you know what, guys, you waited too long. We're going on to Hackensack. We're going on to Paramus. We're doing another bridge. Because I think one thing we all heard is there's a lot of bridges in the state that are in bad shape. So as much, other than the sign issue, which cannot go up there, I think as much as I want to see diagrams from here to tomorrow, I want to get this job started. It's 3 lanes. It's to accommodate future growth. Let's take what we can get now. This is the state of New Jersey we're talking about. Let's not miss up another opportunity.
And just to add to that, when DOT originally came to us, we expressed our concerns about the bottleneck, and they said to us at that time that there was nothing that we could do because of the priority. We were way low on the priority in terms of widening Route 4. Yes.
If I can,
Councilman Stern.
Yeah, could you talk to me again for a minute about, you mentioned something earlier about the parkland. The parkland that might be removed, or for the removal of some trees alongside, particularly around the area of the bridge itself. And you talked about the possibility of swapping it out, so to speak, with other parkland that the township owns. My question to you, am I correct? Did I hear you correctly? My question to you is, in lieu of swapping out that with township-owned parkland, can the township get some kind of funding to purchase non-township-owned parkland and make it parkland? You follow what I'm saying? In other words, not taking township-owned parkland that we own already, but the possibility of getting funding for purchasing other parkland.
The requirement is a replacement of the parkland that is lost as a result of the transportation improvement. That replacement cannot be existing parkland. We are not proposing to acquire existing parkland. What we're looking at is that existing surplus properties that are owned by the township
that are not encumbered as
currently parkland.
But they must be owned by the township.
No, they don't have to be, but it's an opportunity to...
Okay. That's what I wanted to hear.
To generate more parkland for the township.
Perfect.
And we will provide a replacement to that tree loss, and that can be enhancements not only within the Greenbelt corridor, but it could be enhancements to existing parkland in other portions of the township. So, yeah,
there's 4 for 1. I'm not kidding.
It depends on what's called the caliper, the size of the tree lost, and the size of the tree that's being proposed to be replaced.
Isn't there's some 4 for 1 requirement somewhere?
It's actually it's based on numbers.
Thank you for coming in. If you could just get us that information before our next meeting. Also, just for future reference, when you want to do presentations, we have screens behind us and in the back for the audience. So if you want to do it on computers, it'd be great.
Save the trouble of lugging all the
stuff on. Okay. If you could just send the attorney also a sample resolution that you need.
And emphasizing the importance of widening Route 4 in the future.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes. Thank you.
Your Honor, if it so pleases the council, we can set up the boards outside. If any member of the public have questions, want to see the details.
Yeah, that would be absolutely
phenomenal. To stay, recognizing we didn't really have the advantage.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks.
Next item on tonight's. Can I ask for an agenda motion?
We got to do, I think, but we have to do the public ordinances before good and welfare.
We have to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just would like, the Youth Advisory Board is here tonight, and given the lateness of the hour, if we can call them up first. They were going to speak during good and welfare, but if we can allow them to have some dialogue with us and call it a presentation, whatever we have to do legally to do that.
That's fine. Great.
Okay.
Second.
Great. Come on up, guys.
Mr. Mayor, before they begin, if I could just give you some background. Typically, the YAB comes before us sometime after their youth forum, and last year, for many reasons, they weren't able to, well, they did come, but we weren't able to get back to them with answers to many of their questions. So they presented 7 questions or so for us this evening for us to look into about issues that are of importance to them.
We good? All right. I'm Scott Pleasance. I'm an adult advisor and a Teaneck Youth Advisory Board. I'm actually going to turn it over to Joey Goffstein. He's our, what are you, Joey?
Chair.
Joey's our chair, so Joey can follow up.
Hi, I'm Joey Goffstein. This is my 5th year on the Youth Advisory Board. And I'm actually going to turn it over to 4 of my fellow board members to bring up it's like 4 issues that we feel are big questions that we have for the council, and hopefully we can get some answers tonight, if possible.
Hi, my name is Daniel Rodriguez. I'm also a 5th-year member of the Youth Advisory Board, and I go to Teaneck High School here in Teaneck. So I would say 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, we had a meeting with the Boston Youth Advisory Board, and we were able to have a little Google conference with them. And we asked them a couple questions about how they kind of run their Youth Advisory Board there in, a much bigger city like Boston. We were able to get a lot of information about, how they're able to get word out to the public about, what they do and, some of the events that they hold. We were also able to talk to them about membership and how long, each person gets to stay on the board and, what each kind of person does on that board. And one of the things that Boston Board has that we would like to actually implement is beginning the process of developing a Youth Advisory Board webpage on the township website.
Another concern we have is kids come and say they've, been around town and they've been around their local streets, and there have been a lot of problems with street lights. So we were kind of wondering if we imagine there are these requirements for street lights and checking on street lights, and it's obviously very important for safety. So we were wondering if things like requirements for street lights can be reviewed in order to, hold the utmost safety for children in town.
What's your name?
I'm Ben Elias.
Hi, I'm Rafi Wind. I'm a part of the First School. Something else we were wondering about is the hours of the parks. If we could get those extended, maybe we could also have the police monitoring them periodically, because there have been cases of cell phones being stolen.
Hi, I'm Steve Bordak. I'm sure you're all familiar with the area between on Queen Anne Road between State Street and Amsterdam, where there's no sidewalk. It's by TABC High School. We know in particular students from that school, but also in general anybody, both kids and adults who are walking in that area or biking, whatever have you, are definitely in a moderately dangerous situation. Given that that's a relatively heavy traffic in that area. So we were wondering if a sidewalk could potentially be put on that street in that area.
I'm Michael Camordo, and I go to school at Benjamin Franklin. And one of the questions we have is the lunches at school. Even though they improved, we were wondering if they could be more tasteful and suitable to eat. And also, in our last meeting, we were wondering if, like, around the town in stores, that students that have high GPAs, like in high school, can get discounts, which will, like, influence them to do better in school.
Thank you.
Did I see Mr. Rodriguez back there? It's a question to take back to the board.
Mr. Rose, I think we have a couple Board of Ed members here.
So hopefully we could look into some of those issues, and we thank all you guys for your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, these are very simple things that we can start working on. I think that Councilman Parker, who's your liaison, can speak to the manager about the webpage. With regards to the street lights, there's a number on the street lights. If you just send it over to the township manager or send it to us, we forward that number over to PSENG, and then they repair it. Hours in the parks, I think that...
Actually, I just want to clarify, when we talk about hours in the parks and some incidents that have concerned you, are there specific parks we're talking about at specific facilities? Is it the basketball courts at Votee? Is it the playground equipment in Andreas Park? Narrow it down so that we can figure out how to address that.
Those are sort of two separate scenarios. One of those is like during the summer in Votee, people wanted longer hours, for example, the basketball courts. Because as you know, I don't know if you know, but some people actually play in the dark in Votee during the summer.
Generally right now, if all our equipment is operating properly, the basketball courts in Votee are lighted until 11 p.m.
Okay.
Are we looking for hours much later than that, or just to have our equipment operating as it should more frequently?
And then the other scenario was there were certain parts in Teaneck, I don't know off the top of my head, that kids were complaining when they walk nearby at night, they feel unsafe, which is where the police presence sort of came in. These are like closed parts that are unlit that quote-unquote sketchy things are happening in, that teenagers just walking nearby felt unsafe. So
I think that's coupled with the self-issue, meaning like people have had their phones stolen in the middle of the day because, I guess the people who are stealing the phones kind of feel the lack of police presence, so they sort of feel, more liberal in their actions, and they're more willing to do that even during the day.
Sure. So if we can get maybe at your next meeting, or everyone who raised those concerns, if we can get a list of those particular sketchy areas so that we can work with the manager on increasing directed patrols in the parks to see how we would address those issues to make kids feel more comfortable and safer in those areas. But we want to see if we can, because we have 25 parks in Teaneck, and I'm sure we're not talking about all of them. So if we can identify...
Since YAB's existence, safety in the parks has always been an issue, and I think it's more specifically to Votee Park was the park that was mentioned the most in terms of lighting and feeling safe. And we've also had community policing come and address those issues, as well as the Youth Bureau has come out and addressed those issues. But it's a recurring theme. It wasn't mentioned tonight, but it has been mentioned during our meetings, drug use in the park and people feeling uncomfortable with things that are going on in the park. The mayor's looking like drugs in the park.
Okay.
Okay. I'm sorry. It happens.
Sidewalks. The sidewalks.
Mr. Mayor, with the sidewalks, I think we've given enough leeway to the property owner. This is going on literally over 2 years since we requested.
No, more than 2 years.
No, since we requested.
2006.
Okay. We talk about it as if the next project, the next person is going to be the savior, but the reality is we're leaving a situation that is very dangerous, and I think that we should require the owner of the property to do it. Whoever that owner is, whatever the cost is.
I agree. This has been an issue that we've been talking about for many years. Some youth advisory board members who advocated for it are married now, graduated college, and I do think it's time that we take steps.
I'm in favor of
And it's not just the Torah Academy or the Maya Note. There are students
It's
that are
BF
walking
as well.
to BF, to the high school.
It was BF students that originally brought the concern.
So if we could just have direct the attorney to...
Mr. Mayor,
Just so you should know, I mean, that's the 1475 Palisade Avenue project, which was approved. And
part of the approval included that sidewalk.
The approval included the placement of a sidewalk at that particular location.
So should the developer actually go forward building that project, they're going to have to build those sidewalks.
Correct. We're at the stage of doing the developer's agreement, and the project seems to be on track. The alternative, if you'll remember when we had the in-house engineer, there's extensive engineering that has to be done in order to issue the orders to do the sidewalk to a property owner. And we have not gotten the authority to spend the money to do that kind of engineering.
So I would like to offer a third alternative, and a third alternative is that we go outside the developer's agreement. We make it very clear, we send a letter to the owner of the property that this is something that is required in the developer's agreement, and this is something that we would like to see done as a council today, not wait till the end of the project, which could be 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now, if they end up doing it.
The current owner is not the applicant who has the approval to do the project. So, the chances of the current owner voluntarily agreeing to do the project is slim to none. Either the developer is going to do the project, or the council is going to condemn it to get the project done. So, in order to do the second step,
if we condemn it, though, we pass the expense to the owner, correct?
Not necessarily. Not on this. Not with this topography that we're talking about. There's not enough room in the normal easement for a sidewalk.
I still think that we should start barking a little bit.
This is a difficult engineering issue, and unless we have engineering drawings to work from, we have a problem.
I would still request, if I have the council support, that we send a letter to the owner and to the developer, saying that this is what we want done, and we want this done, immediately. And it's in however way you want to write the letter. But we understand that it's part of the developer's agreement, but this is a safety need that has to be done today.
The letter is no problem to say.
Okay, fine. Do I have support?
Why don't I have a meeting, see if I can arrange a meeting with them first, so we can get some face-to-face.
I'll do a letter with them. Please call me to arrange a meeting.
Okay. So you have direction on which way to go with that. In terms of the lunches, I think there's Sebastian back there, and there's Howard Rose right there. They're the ones to talk about better school lunches. But I think that's a great idea about kids getting, students with high GPAs getting discounts at local stores. And the township clerk, if you guys get in touch with her, she will give you the president of the Teaneck Chamber of Commerce. His name is Larry Bauer, and I'm sure that it's something that he would love to work and see if he can recruit people to participate in that.
Has the YAB ever had a specific meeting or interaction with the Chamber of Commerce?
No. So
that might be something, in addressing that specific question, but also maybe other issues as far as employment and other opportunities.
They actually haven't had a meeting, but they were honored by the Chamber of Commerce a couple of years ago.
So it might be a great time to look at a formal gathering with them to see all the areas that there might be.
Sure. A comment about the discount. If there's a college here, and a lot of high schools, private and public, that's a win-win for the businesses in the township. So I think that if you can sit down with the Chamber of Commerce, there ought to be some way worked out where everybody benefits from that, and it's a great idea. And the YAB is a good conduit to get to the other schools.
Yeah, Mayor, I think all students should get a discount, not just those with a higher GPA. Maybe those with a higher GPA can get a bigger discount. I think all students should get a discount.
Many schools offer it. Now, one of our council members, when he was in high school, he arranged it at the student discount.
And more ice cream at lunch.
Wonderful.
And as far as the website, I know that there were provisions made for a youth page with our new website. It's really just about moving forward. So we'll meet with, perhaps a group of the YAB can meet with the manager, and we can discuss how we want to move forward with that.
Good luck, guys, this year, and thank you for coming in so much.
I just want to acknowledge we have our adult advisors, if they could just stand. They're all here this evening. We have Jeanette and Yvonne and Keisha and Andrew in the back. Thank you, guys. And Scott, of course.
Thank you. Next item on tonight's agenda is public hearing and adoptions of ordinances. Jamie, if you could read the titles of the ordinances to the record, please.
Ordinance number.
I just have one item that was under presentations. Presentations on the billboards. We were supposed to have a presentation on the billboards. They called to cancel, and they're going to reschedule to do the presentation.
By the next meeting or no?
Hopefully by the next meeting.
Ordinance number 1-2014, an ordinance establishing salaries and classification of positions for municipal employees in the Township of Teaneck, including the Police Superior Officers Association for the years 2013 and 2014.
Jamie, can you go into the mic, please?
Sorry. Ordinance number 2-2014, an ordinance establishing salary ranges and classification of positions for municipal employees in the Township of Teaneck, included within the Teaneck Police PVA, local number 215 for the years 2013 and 2014. Ordinance number 3-2014, an ordinance amending Section 36-11.12 of Division 2 of Article 2 of Chapter 36 entitled Traffic of the Township Code, adding restricted on-street parking spaces for handicapped on Beach Street and on East Cedar Lane. Ordinance number 4-2014, an ordinance amending Section 36-14.1 of Division 2 of Article 2 of Chapter 36 entitled Traffic of the Township Code, adding limited 2-hour parking between 10 a.m. and 12 noon, except Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays on Elmer Place. Ordinance number 5-2014, an ordinance amending Section 36-11.4, restricted commuter decal parking of Article 2, parking of Division 1, generally of Chapter 36, traffic of the Code of the Township of Teaneck, respecting the fee for commuter decal parking and overnight parking along a portion of Ward Plaza in the Township of Teaneck.
Thank you. The hearing is now open. Would any member of the public like to comment on ordinances 1-2014 through 5-2014? Dr. Rasheen?
Dr. Alex Rasheen, Teaneck. I have a couple of questions, couple of notes. I looked through this stuff. First of all, there is a supplement or something that's a table of base salaries. For some reason, A and A1 absolutely identical. Why it's necessary to put them, I don't know. It's a kind of confusing. You try to understand what is it for. It's not clear. Please check. Okay, I don't know the salary range, base salary. Okay, check please is here because the pages here and pages on website do not agree. Okay, so check that. Please. Again, table the 1 and 1A. Okay. Yeah, also, I don't understand this base salary. It says that there is, depending on years of service, there is a 1% increase per year, basically, on average, or 2% per 2 to 4 years. Okay, so 2% for years, so it's every 2 years 1%. It's not included in the base salary, so it's added to the base salary, right? There's increase automatically because of longevity. It's Article 10. Okay, so, and then the other thing is that, yeah, okay, I found it. Base salaries, yes, Schedule A1, there will be page 57 here, but package page is 133, okay, so it's 57 and 56. Absolutely identical tables as far as I can see, okay? What's the difference? What's what they just okay? Check it. So the one more thing is I would like to know how much the dental plan offered according to this contract costs the town, because in my health insurance plans dental is not present, and I know that during the year I have to pay for just amount of money which doesn't cover 1 crown. Okay, so therefore you see I don't have it. So basically it looks like, you see, it's a luxury in a way. It's not that I'm asking to just renegotiate it or whatever, but I would like to know how much we pay. Okay? So that's the question about this particular ordinance. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else like to comment? Dr. Powers?
Dr. Powers, Teaneck. As I'm sure you folks know, these ordinances dealing with the contracts for the police, both of them, actually were prepared a very long time ago, and it would be very good for the public to understand what it was that held up the process. I don't believe they've been changed, although because you have 2014 dates, it's kind of hard to figure out exactly what the relationship is to the prior one. But if the council could explain to the public why it was that these two contracts were withheld for a very long period of time, it would be useful. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody have any comments? Mr. Manager? Okay. Would anybody like to move the ordinance number 1-201425 I'm sorry. Alan, come on up.
Alan Sohn, Teaneck resident. Again, regarding ordinances 1-2014 and 2-2014 for the superior officers and PBA Local 215 respectively. The main question I have is, where are the numbers? How does police compensation in Teaneck compare to police compensation in other municipalities in Bergen County and throughout the state of New Jersey? How do police increases compare to other municipalities in Bergen County? How will these ordinances impact the 2014 budget? These ordinances cover retroactive pay going back to 2013. Where is this money coming from? These are not the only outstanding questions that relate to financial issues. At the January 16th meeting, the question was asked of how big the tax increase is. Is it 3.1% and $130? Is it 5.75% and $236? Deputy Mayor Gusson asked the manager to report back at the January 16th meeting. Still haven't heard an answer. At the January 16th meeting, there was a discussion about the capital budget and a $400,000 line item, the fourth largest item in that budget, requesting municipal building asbestos abatement, security, IT cabling, and contingency. No one knew what it was for. There's no explanation of a $400,000 line item. The request was made by the mayor for that information. There's been no information provided. Revenue numbers were supposed to be provided at the February 4th meeting. I'm still looking for the revenue numbers. What is the bottom line on tax appeals? Tax appeal details have been back for 7 weeks already. Even with 1,800, 1,900 tax appeals, this is a process of addition that needs to be done to figure out how much is owed in tax appeals. Where are the 2013 annual financial statement that's due by mid-February and that does not seem to be anywhere on the township website? These are not the first time that these questions have been asked. These are not the first time that these questions have been ignored. This township is dealing with an increase to the largest portion of the salaries in our budget going to the police. These increases may well be due and are appropriate. But where is the money coming from? And in order for this township council to make an appropriate decision on expending that money, in order for the members of the public to understand whether these numbers are justifiable and whether we can afford it, it seems appropriate to provide some basic financial information behind each of these ordinances. And I think that question, where are the numbers, needs to be answered once and for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? No. It's ordinances, but he took it to good and welfare. So, anyone else? Okay. Hearings are now closed. Somebody like to move ordinance number 1-2014 through ordinance 5-2014?
I'll move them.
We have a second? Seconded by Councilman Schwartz. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Parker? Councilmember Stern?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Gusson?
Yes.
Councilmember Pruitt?
Yes.
Councilmember Katz? Councilmember Schwartz?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Next item on tonight's agenda is good and welfare. This is where anyone can talk about anything they would like. You have a question on?
in that category. I'm going to talk about the Commander Walk.
It's an old, what do you call it? It's down the road. It's on the agenda, yeah. Okay. Howard Rose.
Howard Rose, resident of Teaneck. I'm not speaking here tonight as an appointed board member of the municipal board, nor as an elected official on the Board of Education, just as a resident. This resident has taste buds, by the way, and I've had food at the high school. And while it's certainly a step above airplane and hospital food, in a sense, it's almost as good as what you can get at a delicatessen or at home for many people. So don't berate it. We have a new vendor at this. I'm sorry, not as a board member. They have a new vendor providing food, and I wish everyone could get a taste of it. You'd be pretty surprised, I think. Regarding presentations, the audience out here, the residents, the people who are here, were not even able to participate as spectators for most of the presentation that was given. There is a reason why historically cards, visuals, have been placed against the wall there. It gives the ability of the council to see what's going on, and it maximizes some ability for people in the audience to also get information. Listening to what they were saying made no sense unless you had the visuals. So I regret that many interested people were not able to participate even to that effect. Information again. Board of Adjustment, Planning Board. If you look at the link on the net site of the township, it had an agenda and a packet that were the same thing. Both were agendas. Now, I don't know how sophisticated it has to be to get a lot of agenda information onto the net. Maybe you can answer the question, if it's not available on a net, though it should be, it'd be nice if it were, is it available before the meetings also at the library? Again, just so the general public knows where to get access to information to determine what's going on. Spoke with a police officer today. Wasn't doing anything wrong, just a conversation. He happened to mention that Cedar Lane is a problem. Now, this was information given to me. It was not solicited. It's hard for traffic to go by to and from because of the snow that's there. There's only one lane in each direction. People are parked in a third of the parking lane and two-thirds of the active lane. That's a real problem. My thought on this is maybe we're absolutely innovative. I know it's expensive to remove snow, but maybe if it were pushed. Example, in front of my store there are 5 parking spaces. If you push 3 spaces worth of snow into the 2 on either edge, you could have 3 spaces that are usable, 2 that aren't, instead of 5 that aren't usable. You don't have to cart it away, but you can make it safe. I've had residents tell me as well it's unsafe, and I've been there giving a helping hand to people crossing the ice across small mountains. I'm having a little bit of a problem. I've been reading tidbits, and I know that it's the noble, lofty ideas that you're trying to present there, but it seems that if we have a person who's presenting information that's available from many sources, getting collated and presented, it almost looks as if this is something that should be, by that person even, pushed through council to make sure it provides timely, good information and detail, unless the council is doing it right now already, in which case this is duplicative, and I don't know whose email list is bigger, Tidbits or the townships. I've suggested once that if Tidbits has more, find out from the people on Tidbits, would you mind having your email shared with the township so they can send you information and keep you informed. Another concern on information. We have a program that's being initiated by 2 council members. It's for the good and welfare, I'll say, of the township. Now, when 2 individuals who are on council get a paid town official, paid county officials, I'm wondering if this is done with the backing of the council. If it isn't, I think that when a council member does something like this, it should be under the auspices of the council or by the council itself. Otherwise, it looks as if it's self-promotion, and I'm hoping it's not. But the perception of a wrong should be avoided as well. Again, I don't know. Maybe it is provided by the township, and the township is pushing to have this, and these are two people on a committee. I don't know, but it should be explained. I know it happens from time to time with council members in general. Again, the information is not bad. It's very appropriate, but let's make sure that it's just not two individuals. It's two council members on behalf of the council that are doing this. And just my congratulations to Mr. Gusson, who seems much more at ease physically tonight than prior nights. Good. I hope the swing continues upward. Okay, thank you.
Perfect timing. Next. Deanne.
Hi, I'm Angela Taylor. I'm just here. I returned from a presentation on the Amistad Commission. I'm a Teaneck, Thomas Jefferson teacher, Teaneck. Let me start again. I'm a teacher in Teaneck at Thomas Jefferson Middle School, and I'm also the. I don't eat cafeteria food. I pack my lunch. I'm also the Teaneck Schools designee for the Amistad Commission, and we had a summit the Saturday before last, the first one, and I was part of the planning of that as well. Basically, I wanted to say that between the work that Dr. Marisa King has done and our principal, Angela Davis, has also allowed us to have a PLC in TJ, where Leola Maddox, myself, and Karen Hughes will be putting together a center for research in Thomas Jefferson Middle School. And on the 24th, we'll be presenting this to the other schools to have centers set up in each of the schools through Teaneck, which makes Teaneck one of the model districts in implementing the legislation of the Amistad Commission. Also, as we've done work on the burial ground here in Teaneck and preserving the historic site of enslaved Africans and Native Americans in Teaneck, that also, your support on that is appreciated and has been very instrumental in being a model for other New Jersey towns to view and continue to support us in that vein. The last piece of information is that having knowledge of the fact that the home next to the burial ground is up for sale, we just would hope that your continued support in preserving the honor of that area continue, and whatever is being considered for that, the consideration of the fact that it is the Slave and Indian burial ground be considered in your decision process. And the sign, is there any...
It's not funny anymore. It's really not funny anymore. I mean, so we'll answer it at the end. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Jason?
Jason Castle, Teaneck. First and foremost, Councilwoman Parker, I want to commend you on a phenomenal Black History Month event in which you brought a lot of awareness to a number of people in the community who are doing exceptional things on behalf of the community. Beyond that, I want to say, though I was raised here in New Jersey, I was born on the West Coast, right outside of San Francisco. And when I lived in San Francisco, there was a street. It was Lombard Street, and I think that probably everyone in the council is pretty much, I hope, aware of Lombard Street. It's the most crooked street in the U.S. I mean, you're zigzagging to get up and down. Well, down now. And on times such as of heavy snow, I'm often reminded of Lombard Street because after the streets are plowed, people are parking on either side of the streets. I happen to live on a through street in Teaneck, and because the streets are so narrow, I and my neighbors find ourselves zigzagging back and forth to go around parked cars. I work in New York, and in New York they have opposite side of the street parking. If the streets are snow covered, though parking space is limited, they do direct or designate cars to park on either the left or the right side. And I just want to, present that as maybe some type of solution here in the township, where when the streets are snow covered, because the snow mounds build up to the point that they get almost 3 or 4 feet into the driving street, that we could direct cars to park on either the left or the right, or the north or the south or east or west, whichever streets they are on. That way we're not creating our own Lombard streets in which cars are zigzagging back and forth to get around park traffic. Beyond that, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Dan?
Deanne Ip, Pomander Walk. There's a property for sale, and I've been lobbying for about the past month on this property. I want to say I would be elated beyond joy to understand that you have actually decided to move ahead and to preserve my flood buffer zone, to have parkland, the most glorious and beautiful piece of parkland in the township of Teaneck on the Hackensack River for my community, to honor an expanded zone of protection around the Teaneck Historic African and Indian Burial Ground. And if you would decide in that favor, we would be very happy. I would be happy. Everyone would be happy. It would just be a win-win. So I would be gratefully requesting that and hoping that that happens. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? That's it? Dr. Hoffman.
Everybody wants to be last.
I had a root canal today, so it takes a little time. Ken Hoffman in Teaneck. 3 things. First, I really do appreciate everything that DPW has done to at least allow us to drive and walk in the middle of the street. But I do have one comment on our street, which is Phelps Road. We're required to move our cars, and since we have our 2 boys home, one of them went into the municipal lot, and they did a great job in being with DPW so we could get out. But the contractors who went through only did the middle of the road. And we had, after the first snow, we had a 3 feet 5 inches width by the curb. Now, I know it's hard with the second and third snowfall when it's frozen, but there was really no reason why, after the first snowfall, they couldn't get closer. They certainly closed off our driveways, everybody else. But one of the problems we have, besides the heavy snow, is the fact that the initial boundary was in the middle of the road. And that's mainly the reason why in our small community, in our small roads, and we do have a through street to Route 4, and it really is a slalom course. We've been lucky no standing car has been hit, but I agree with Jason that I think when DPW is sending it out with the contractors, that they get a little bit closer to the curbing. Otherwise, why should we have to move our cars at all? Secondly, with the billboards, I would hope that council will reach out to Marie Wernicke, who wrote a phenomenal email to the council prior to the billboard presentation, so that the Greenbelt Committee can take a look at all of this and have our support in dealing with it. And I think that is really a priority. And then finally, as I had mentioned a couple weeks ago, and I thank Councilman Stern on it, our environmental board respecting Voti Park needs to be renewed, and I look forward to meeting with council in closed session to discuss that in the near future. And I thank you all very, very much.
Thank you. Dr. Rashid.
Dr. Alex Rashintinek. It's a number of things. First of all, when I first noted this 400,000 item in the budget, it was not unclear actually what is it for. It is to connect the former police building to the municipal building. And it was not foreseen apparently in the original plan, and therefore it was a kind of, okay, well, we have a contract for $3 million, not more, now we need 400,000 more. Okay, so basically it means that the planning, okay, and the contract was not thought through, and it's not our responsibility to pay for it. It's possible to save probably on flaws extras which are in a current plan to save us money and to stay within the contract limits. For example, the second floor in the connector is absolutely unnecessary because it's dead end. Person who wants to go, wheelchair-bound person who wants to go from the second floor of the former police building to the first floor of police building has first to go all the way along the connector to the municipal building, take elevator to the first floor, okay, and then take the whole way back from municipal building to the police building to get to the first floor. It's absolutely unnecessary because it's dead end to the elevator. The municipal building doesn't have second floor. It's necessary to move the elevator towards the police building, which will be close by, okay, and leave only one floor to connect to the municipal building and the basement. That will save some money, okay? So, and then will be less removal of whatever from the municipal building. That's one thing, okay? Second thing, which is related, okay, because it's the taxes. I hear too much, and you just say how great is the town, how people are happy with what they have, okay? I hate this council. Too many times, exactly in these words, okay? And major concern is taxes. Okay, so therefore, cut whatever you can, because that's what people feel about the council, because how council works and how it spends money and how it raises taxes when it's not actually necessary. Okay, now coming to other possibilities for cutting taxes. What about the buying new cars for police department stuff? Can we postpone it? Checking whether some of the cars could be repaired for now and see whether we can just put it into the budget, say next year or year after that. Okay, that would save us some money. Okay, that's one thing. Second thing, I would come to the intersection of Cedar Lane and Garrison, and police officer is regulating the traffic and crossing. I ask him, what are you doing here? Why are you here? He says, because the township tells me to do that. Listen, in the mornings, okay, we have hundreds of thousands of kids crossing the roads, and we have crossing guards, okay, and apparently we do not care about them as much as we care about the adults crossing the Cedar Lane, okay. I think it should be some way to have crossing guards or whatever, some supplementary force, not police officers, which are expensive, to help with crossing of the Cedar Lane. Okay, that will save us money. Also, again, I completely support what Eli Katz suggests, that the overtime should be cut, because everything is thrown into overtime. Because for example, the working day for police officer is 39 hours and a quarter. Okay, and he works 40 hours. That goes either to extra vacation, which is paid, or to overtime, and so on and so forth. It's necessary somehow to cut it. Third thing, we had surplus last year, as far as I know. Every year we have surplus, okay? How much it is this way, probably you cannot know before you know how much money you collected through taxes and whatever income. However, I would suggest, okay, look hard to take significant part of this surplus and return it in cutting taxes to the residents. Okay, see what will be necessary if emergency, real emergency, not emergency allowed by Christie. Okay, but real emergencies come, then you might find money. But right now, don't keep any money in any corner, because apparently it was possible to cut budget 2 years ago when it was necessary. Money was found magically, okay? So I think that they can be found now. Please do that, because I don't want to hear we hate the council. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Powers?
Chuck Powers, Teaneck. I had planned to talk about the fact that it is very clear, as Alan Stone has made clear, that in fact the numbers are actually in on on what the tax appeals have cost. It's 2.256, as one of you actually said in public some time ago, about a month. So it's time to get those incorporated into your budget. But I'm going to talk about something else tonight, because a number of people have been talking to me about the fact that this large ditch that we have out here to the where the old police building is one that almost certainly intersects one of the major sort of flows that comes off that hill that caused whoever it was that built that new police building so much money and put that hill when I moved into town up there in a way that none of us could understand until we went back and understood what had happened with your oversight of a very complex capital project. And so since I had bought the specs for that project, I went and took a look. And I was actually trying to figure out what it was that had caused them to be putting those huge flood drains out there and the way in which that was being done. And I opened up this set of specs, and lo and behold, I found a strange name on this one. And I don't understand it. I'm asking you a question tonight. Because the name on that, and 5 other pages of that document, is Halls. David Halls has signed as part, I assume, of a subcontract that was never part of the contracts that you folks made with Iovino back in April 2011, and then redid them in August of 2012. There's no reference to Halls as part of the Iovino project, and yet that's part of that spec. And I assume, therefore, this is a question. Is that a subcontract? And then I started thinking about 2 things that I had talked to you folks about earlier. One, you haven't had an engineer. Several of you pointed out engineering issues that are germane in this town. You haven't had an engineer in this town since August 31. Now, there was discussion about this on December 17th, and in fact, you may remember that the attorney said it was really okay for Mr. Halls to have recommended his own firm for 2 of those no-bid contracts. That was okay. It was a matter of form and not substance. It's now 2 months later, folks, and now I discover that what must be a subcontract in setting up those specs is, I assume, to be reviewed and the work done pursuant to it by your acting engineer. And at some point, folks, form must become substance. No town can get along without an engineer on whom it can rely to coordinate the process by which complex engineering judgments, and particularly when you're involved in the kinds of capital projects this township is now involved in. And it is very important that the people who do that do not have conflicts. So I just had to look up a little bit about Mr. Halls. One thing I knew was that he had recommended against the $15,000 check on the contaminated water at Votee Park, against the recommendation of the entire Environmental Advisory Board for that. And we had to overcome that effort. And then I find that Mr. Halls is actually the engineer recommending against the best judgments of the senior elected officials of Little Ferry that there be a major project put right on the wetlands that helps reduce the potential of flooding in Little Ferry, and also on Deanne's property, the way in which the Hackensack River, in any kind of major hurricane or major storm coming up the Newark Bay, involves. And against the best judgments of the people of the elected officials of Little Ferry, Mr. Halls is representing people who want to go ahead and take that property away. I don't know how it is we chose this person as the person who is your advisor on engineering. You didn't choose that person. And I suggest you get an engineer. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Naomi?
Naomi Kramer, Teaneck. I recently had to drive along Route 4, had to go into the city over the weekend to visit my brother-in-law in Brooklyn. He had surgery. And as we were driving along Route 4, we got on, like near River Road or Bell Avenue, River Road we got on. I was looking to see where could a billboard go. These are huge, huge things. There is not a billboard from River Road till you get to Englewood where the gas stations are. Nothing. Except trees and some residences. So why you would want to break that up, to put huge construction, I can't understand. Also, if you ride the other way on Route 4, the only large billboard all the way through Paramus is one at the bridge. When you go over Route 4, there's a bridge. There's one big billboard. The rest are just signs for the stores. So even they don't allow billboards to block the view. It just defies credibility that you would consider doing that. I want you each to get up close, to drive along Route 4, and get up close when you can to a billboard and get an idea of what that actually means to the view of the Greenway. Also, I have a question about the master plan. When was that changed? Has that been changed since a restriction on any building or anything on the Route 4 Greenway? I'd like to know when the master plan was changed to allow it, because there is a provision in the master plan that says you can't do anything there into perpetuity. So was the master plan changed? Okay. I'm curious whose idea this was. I can't imagine it's any one of you who live in Teaneck and ride along Route 4. Often. I think it's a terrible idea. I don't know why you're pushing it. And also, in your ordinance, you have a lot of things there. First of all, there's not a large enough difference of distance between a billboard and a residence. 300 feet is not large enough, long enough. Also, you should include in there that the billboard should not be seen from any residence. If you're going to go through with this ridiculous idea, then you should at least protect any residents from having to look out their window at a billboard, even in the distance. So please consider that too. Also, I want to thank Alan Sohn. He keeps bringing up these issues of budget and where our money is going and why it's going where it's going. And somehow he never gets any answers. I hope it doesn't mean you're being cavalier with the public's money, because we need to know why the taxes are so high. Don't shake your head. They're not high? There are probably other ways you can find some money. I won't go into that now. You know how I feel, many of you. I think you could probably read. A township attorney's job is a plum job. Many firms are merging. They are closing down because there isn't enough work. And when a township attorney gets a township job,
thank you,
it means money coming in. You could redo that contract.
Thank you. Anyone else, ma'am?
Hi, Lorraine Bogert, Oradell. I'm just here because I was here in 2006 when you bought the historic burial ground, and I want to thank you very much for your consideration in adding to the Blue Acres, to the burial ground itself, and to the beautiful view you will have at the end of the Pomander Walk there, where I think it's one of the most gorgeous views along the Hackensack River. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Alan?
Alan Stone, Teaneck resident. I can't remember the exact meeting. I think it was October 22nd, but I'll go back and confirm. The Township Council was considering a letter from Green Acres, from the state, where the state was offering several $100,000 to the township that could be used as a matching grant towards the purchase of additional parkland. It's very, very rare that this funding is available. It really provides an opportunity to the township to acquire land with half of the money provided by the state, half of the money provided by the township. And basically, the decision that was made at that point was to throw that money back to the state. There was $500,000 offered. There was $500,000 that could have been used at the time to purchase and possibly acquire some of the properties at the southeast corner of Votee Park. Some houses that were on sale that perhaps could have been purchased and could have been used to expand Votee Park, that could have been used to expand access to Votee Park and the Rhoda Center. That was thrown back. I don't know where that money is. I don't know what happened to it. Perhaps that money could have been used to purchase the property of Pomander Walk. There are rare opportunities to expand the amenities that are available to township residents. And this was an opportunity, that was rejected. One of the things that was pointed out this evening was bad decisions made regarding Route 4 by past councils. And I look at the bad and astonishingly horrible decisions made on a financial basis by this council over the past 4 years, the past 8 years, the past 12 years, the past 16 years. And taxpayers today are living based on financial decisions and inappropriate and inconsequential considered decisions made over those past several years. Just this evening, we passed a resolution, an ordinance, approving increases to pay for Teaneck police officers. Without any understanding, without any council member, not a single council member asked for any number regarding the financial impact of that decision. Nor for any other decision are financial questions asked. What is the impact? How will this affect taxpayers? A suggestion was made that we could cut money from the budget by cutting overtime expenditures. Well, there are really two possibilities that boil down. Either overtime is being used for no apparent purpose to supplement the pay of township employees, or it's being used for a specific purpose. If we could just simply by fiat cut 50%, 80%, 20%, some arbitrary number from overtime expenditures, why did we wait until this year to do it? Why didn't we do that last year? 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago? And taxpayers of Teaneck are paying for those non-decisions. It's very easy to just say yes, to spend other people's money. $70 million that is not yours, that you are taking out of taxpayers' pockets to spend for projects that you like, without any understanding of the financial impact. I asked specific questions about the size of the tax increase, and Deputy Mayor leading this meeting asked the manager for an answer at the subsequent meeting. It hasn't been provided. Questions were asked about the $400,000 to be expended out of the capital budget. There's been no explanation. You have had 7 weeks to add up the numbers for tax appeals. Where is the answers? And it is on that base of not only not asking the questions, but when the questions are asked, not following up and saying, you know what, Mr. Manager, what is the answer to that question? And it is that inability, that unwillingness to go through the numbers, to see where those numbers are going, to see where those taxes are going, that has led us to a situation where we have one of the highest tax rates in one of the highest tax counties in the highest tax state. And I think it's due well past time to start asking those questions and to start answering those questions once and for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing no other hands, good and welfare is now closed. I'm sorry. Ma'am, come on.
Hello, I'm Barbara Hutt from Teaneck. Can you pull it down? Can you hear me? Okay. About billboards, not only are they unsightly, but there's always the concern if people's eyes are being taken off the road to look at something on the side of the road. If somebody stops suddenly, you're going to have people and you're going to create a driving menace of pile-ups, which are going to be catastrophic. Police, it's a drain on the ambulance and all of those things, which is just an undesirable effect for our town. So, something to think about.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing no other hands, good and welfare is now closed. Council met in closed session to talk about 671 Pomander Walk. It was agreed on if we have 4 Nottingham heads, for the attorney to start negotiations with the realtor to purchase that property on behalf of the town. Is everybody in favor, right? Thank you. Howard, with regards to the snow, we usually do a pretty good job with snow, but we are really stretched to the point where we're actually over budget, we're running out of salt, and, the manager is out on trucks during snowstorms right now, so maybe that's why we don't get the revenue numbers as fast as we can, but it's really been, I think it's the third highest snow accumulation in northern Jersey. So we've been doing our best, and there's no place to put the snow right now. So the slalom that we're going through right now is something that we know that it's there. Nobody likes it, but it's something we're dealing with in terms of alternate side seat parking. Councilman Katz has put that on the agenda under council listed items, so we are going to be looking at ways to improve that process. Can we get on the agenda and nominate the members of the Environmental OT Park Board again and have that presentation for closed session at the next meeting, and then have Dr. Hoffman come and give the presentation at the subsequent meeting afterwards? And Alan, I'm dying to hear your solutions. I mean, I really, I worked with you on the Financial Advisory Board, and you're running for council, and every, week you come here, you take 2 bites at the apple, but I can't wait to see your solutions. Our taxes too high. I really think my 3-year-old can tell me my taxes are too high, and we don't spend other people's money. Everybody up here is taxpayers and lives in this town and has family in this town and has long roots in this town. So we take with great care what we're doing in this town and how we spend that money. When we talk about overtime, we could have cut overtime last year, but when we take out overtime, there is a service that is tied with every individual that works in this town. And that, if you guys want to talk about snow removal, I'll use that example very clearly, is that we have a DPW that we didn't hire the 4 new members that they needed to hire. And that makes an impact when people are out sick. That makes an impact when people need to be on the truck and people need to come to work and they need to work out 12-hour shifts, and we don't move this new as fast as we possibly can. I'm not going to address any of the issues regarding the billboard right now until I see the revenue numbers coming in. With regards to the revenue numbers that we need from for the tax department, last year they came in on February 28th. I spoke to the manager. We should be having them soon, and as well as the information that council requested. Does anybody else have anything to add on any of the good and welfare?
Yeah, no, I want to address, and this is something that I think an educated public is really important to the process, and an informed public is important to everything we do. The concern that I have is Mr. Sohn, as a candidate, has now chosen to obfuscate that process because he can come up with some absolutely ridiculous minutia number about the operations of the police department in Mahwah to compare it to Teaneck at the snap of a finger, but a report that Teaneck was a part of, a multi-town process study to look at comparative spending across Teaneck, Hackensack, Bergenfield, and Bogota and Englewood that actually shows per capita cost for just about every service the town provides, full of numbers, literally right at my fingertips, that he accuses us of not knowing when we look at our police contracts. And the reality is that he can pick facts and figures and grandstand all he wants, but he's just dead wrong. So, for instance, when we look at those police contracts tonight, and we look at, and this was part of the Government Service Index benchmarking report for the Community Collaborative of Bergenfield, Bogota, Englewood, Hackensack, and Teaneck, dated October 2013, that Englewood spends $456 per capita on police salaries. Hackensack spends $331 per capita. Teaneck spends $310 per capita. Teaneck, for years, and as Alan well knows, having been involved in this process for more than a decade, Teaneck spends just below average of the 70 towns in Bergen County on its police contract. But because we didn't spoon-feed him the number at this meeting, he's accusing us of not knowing, never asking the question, and being clueless. And the reality is that as much as you want to make us look uninformed, all you're doing is accomplishing misinformation for the public, and I think it's a travesty, and I certainly hope that attitude doesn't come onto this council. Again, this report is one that was made public. It's a public document. Some incredible numbers that show Teaneck as a leader in terms of efficiency, or in some areas where we significantly outspend our peer communities because we've made policy commitments to providing senior recreational opportunities, to providing fire service. When we look at the areas that we outspend, it's because we've made a policy commitment to providing excellent service. There's areas where we provide excellent service at significantly lower cost than our peer communities. Again, this is a document may be interesting if we can put this on the website. There's some tremendous information, but Alan certainly has seen this document or has had access to it, and to suggest otherwise is ludicrous.
And just for also this document came for us from a group that came to the township and requested this. We didn't request them to do this study. They got grant money from the county, and they independently put this document together, and we'll put it on the website so you guys can, everyone can see it.
Can you step outside? I'm sorry. If you have to comment, can you please step outside? I'm sorry.
Dr. Pruitt.
I'd like to make a comment about the snow. Drive around quite a bit, and Teaneck did a fantastic job with the snow compared to other towns. It's just that Mother Nature beat us the last time, and we had too much to deal with. But prior to the last week, we were pretty good, almost to the curb, and I think that we ought to commend the manager for doing a great job.
and the DPW, and it's just we have 121 miles of road. It's not an easy task of clearing those roads. Mark?
I just wanted to point out a few things. Mr. Stone, thank you very much for always come to the meeting and try and keep us on our toes, and I appreciate it. Just a correction to, I believe, the October 22nd comment. The discussion with the Voti Park land acquisition, which is something we were all very interested in, was using that state, the matching money, which would have cost us several $100,000 to purchase those properties. The manager reported back that, unfortunately, they were already in contract, and as such, we were not able to use that. There was no money wasted. There was no money lost. Frankly speaking, the capitalism beat us to it, and someone purchased the properties before we were able to do it. This was not a council dropping the bucket, dropping the ball. Also, I just want to point out from asking questions available on the township website and on the board is the closed session meeting in the council agenda, and we were chastised for not asking questions about the salaries of arbitration and union contracts. And you'll notice on the agenda that it discusses under township manager's report the contract negotiations, and then we are updating in closed session on the various bargain units and the back and forth with the unions. So we do watch every penny. As you mentioned, that penny is our pennies, and I feel that I've asked our attorneys and asked our labor attorneys the ins and outs of that budget contract, and I'm satisfied that I've done my own due diligence when we passed those resolutions this evening.
It's also our policy not to negotiate in public. Anyone on this side?
Yeah, Mayor. I just wanted to thank the council for their for the impetus to move forward with the Pomander Walk, looking into the Pomander Walk property. I have to thank Deanne and her neighbors for coming out and encouraging us to do so. I had the opportunity to tour the property with Deanne a number of weeks ago when it first became available, or was becoming available, actually, before it became available. It's a beautiful piece of property. I hope that we are able to successfully negotiate and look into and find an appropriate appraisal for it, and bring this to a good conclusion. But thanks again for coming out.
What's that?
Basically, I'll just echo the sentiments of Mr. Stern. It's a unique opportunity for us to acquire that property. Unfortunately, I'm not under the best of circumstances because Ms. Knappersack has taken ill. But since the opportunity has presented itself, I'm glad that my council colleagues are moving forward with us negotiating with the property owner. With respect to the snow, I just also want to indicate I want to commend the DPW for all the long hours that they've been working 12-hour shifts over the last couple of weeks in trying to keep up with snow removal, and also would like to commend the manager for being out on the plow himself and trying to get the road safe for our residents. But I just want to people to keep in mind that in order for us to do this, it comes with a cost, and a cost that I'm willing for us to pay for safety. But it also comes at a cost because it provides wear and tear on our employees working those 12-hour shifts in order to keep the road safe. So when we talk about hiring freezes, we need to keep all of that information in our minds, that we can only wear down our employees but so much. And I understand that this year it's unique, but we've had many unique years since I've been on this council, whether it be snowstorms or hurricanes or nor'easters, that we can only expect so much from our employees. And we need to think about which departments we ask for hiring freezes and what kind of an impact it's going to have on services. So I'd like us to revisit unfreezing those DPW positions so that we can have people in place to service our public.
I agree with you, and sometimes we'd have to look for revenue where we normally would not look for revenue.
I agree with that as well. And make uncomfortable decisions that we would not make in a different environment, financial environment.
All right. Anybody else?
Actually, I'm sorry. Just one more comment on the Pomander Walk property, and I think it's something that we discussed. I guess when we go to council liaison reports, but the Parks, Playground, Recreation Advisory Board has supported this purchase, has endorsed us pursuing the opportunity to look at this, and one thing that has come to light recently, I want to think of it almost as sort of predatory acquisition, where there may be bad actors in the neighborhood looking to acquire that property to build parking lots or other less than desirable facilities. I've said many times over the past 8 years that probably the single most awesome power that this council has is that of eminent domain and condemnation, and that I'd be hesitant in all but the most extreme cases to exercise that power. And I want to make it clear that this acquisition, I think, is such a valuable opportunity for the town that in this situation, I would very strongly consider condemnation and eminent domain should a bad actor pursue acquisition of this property. That's how strongly I feel about it, and I just wanted to make that support very clear.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Would somebody like to move the consent agenda?
So moved. I'd like to move the consent agenda along with resolutions, let's see, resolutions B, C, and D. And the bill list in the amount of?
$4,581,993.21.
Thank you.
Need a second?
I'll second that.
Councilmember Parker?
Yes.
Councilmember Stern?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Gustin?
Yes.
Councilmember Pruitt? Yes. Councilmember Katz?
Staying on the bill list on resolution B as in
Councilmember Schwartz?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. We have conversations. Can we take them outside, please? Also, Jamie, can we make sure that the minutes are on the next meeting?
Absolutely.
Okay. Next item on tonight's agenda is introduction of ordinances. Would somebody like to introduce ordinance number 6-2014?
So introduced.
Do we have a second?
Yeah.
Second by Councilman Schwartz. Councilman Katz.
You know what? I yield to Councilman Schwartz.
Okay. Okay. Councilman Schwartz.
Ordinance number 6-2014, an ordinance amending sections 36-25 and 36-25.1 of Division 3 of Article 2 of Chapter 36, entitled Traffic of the Township Code, deleting a portion of Edgemont Place from Section 36-25, 1 hour parking between the hours of 8 a.m. and 6 p.m., except Sundays and holidays, and adding a portion of Edgemont Place to Section 36-25.1, 1 hour parking between 8 a.m. and 6 p.m., except Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays. Did you want to read the summary?
The summary's there. Can you read it?
I have it here, 2 of them. Here, Jamie.
Okay. Ordinance number 6-2014 revises parking restrictions on Edgemont Place from 1 hour parking between 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. except Sundays and holidays to 1 hour parking between 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. except Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays. And the historical background: a resident of Edgemont Place submitted a petition requesting the change in parking restrictions on Edgemont Place in early January.
Roll call.
Councilmember Parker?
Yes.
Councilmember Stern?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Gussin?
Yes.
Councilmember Pruitt? Councilmember Katz?
Yes.
Councilmember Schwartz?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Under old business, I think we'll table ordinance number 44-2013. That's a billboard ordinance. The last meeting of the planning board was canceled due to weather. Resolution to oppose privatization of toll collection services on New Jersey Turnpike and Garden State Parkway.
That was something I presented last council meeting, and council wanted an opportunity to review it before moving forward. So,
do we have 4 nodding heads?
Yeah.
Yes.
Fine.
Okay.
thank you for the support.
Okay. 2014 municipal budget. Does anybody have any questions? The revenue numbers are still not in, correct?
Yeah, the CFO is still working on those numbers. The tax appeals are are still being processed.
Can you just go through the reason what the delay is for the tax appeal?
Well, the delay is the tax appeals will have a direct impact on the surplus. Okay, so...
But the process of why it's taking so long, how many people we
process, there's, I believe it was 1,900, over 1,900 tax appeals. These tax appeals have to be entered into the computer. They have to be processed. We have limited staff. We have some staff that's out on leave. It also coincided with, the tax month or the tax quarter when taxes are due. So the same people that are processing this information have to work the front desk and service customers. They answer the telephones. Also, we've had the weather. The inclement weather has caused issues, and we have
just to go into it, just when people are coming to pay their taxes, we have a long line where people are taking care of customers because we have a lot of people who like to come in and give their check and get their receipt.
That, and we have mail that has come that we put in date order, and some of it's not open and recorded yet, and it's a process that we have to work through.
Because we are understaffed, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, because we're understaffed because if we staff it, then our taxes go even higher, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I just wanted to make sure that we have. Does anybody else have anything to add on anything on the municipal budget?
Yeah, I'd still, maybe it pains me to echo Mr. Sohn, but I still, we need to see the breakdown of that capital budget item for contingencies on this building, the $400,000, and still some of the other details that have been asked for. Need to see those numbers.
I understand that. As I said before, we are in a budget process. I'm in
a budget process also.
Yes, and so I'm going to provide you with that information. Okay, I understand. I have everything written down that the council wants. Some of the information I already have. Other information I'm acquiring. I'm working with the township engineer. I'm working with our clerk of the works on the building. I have some information. Some of the information I just got today, I got to review it. I got to make sure it's correct before that information becomes public. I understand everything the council wants, and I will have it to the council. Some information I have provided.
Well, all of the outstanding items we'll have by when?
All of the outstanding items.
The clock is ticking on the timeline for when we need to adopt the budget, and our ability to analyze it, discuss it, make appropriate changes, and that timeline is something that now is getting to the point where it's starting to concern me.
All of the items that you requested that are outstanding, I will have on Thursday, except the revenue numbers.
Okay.
The revenue numbers, which I provided last year on February 28th, I will provide them by February 28th again.
Okay. So we'll have everything by the 28th?
Yes.
Okay.
So can I ask then, for our first meeting in March, if the municipal budget can be moved up to the top of the agenda and not at the bottom? Once we have all that information.
We had put it on the old business. You want to move it into the presentation?
Wherever you want to call it, workshop perhaps.
Okay. And if you want me to provide a summary, I'm prepared.
Yeah.
This evening to summarize what we've done, if you want to.
We'll do it under the manager's report.
Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that looking outside, it's clear that we've spent more money than we had in terms of snow removal, and the question is going to be, how do we account for that?
We have a snow trust.
Yeah, we do have a snow trust. Let me just gather some information here. I believe if up to October. Okay. So up to In 2014, these are just the storms for 2014, we used approximately 2,188 tons of salt, and the salt is $49.96 a ton. That's $109,300 that we've spent on the 2014 storms. We budget for salt $83,435 for salt. So we're definitely over on the salt. We do have approximately $145,000 in our snow truss. We did have to charge some sandy items to the snow truss, but the snow truss is going to get reimbursed once we get money from the federal government. So, I mean, we've overspent, but I think we'll be okay. Don't mess with my slush fund.
One thing, talking about salt, while we're just on the topic, and this is something that maybe if we can list for deeper discussion at some other point, and obviously, there was talk about whether it was from the county executive, other municipalities, our own town, or all across the Northeast, a salt shortage. And obviously, we're not the only ones dealing with having a lot of roads to salt with great frequency. So it brings up the availability of salt, and any resident who has tried to go out and buy salt for their sidewalks or steps has found, tremendous difficulty in even buying 10-pound bags of salt. So when we buy a 15-pound bag of salt for $6 at Home Depot or whatever it is, it's significantly more than $50 a ton by orders of magnitude. And so one thing that I think I want to see if it's feasible for us, or if it's legal for us to do, would be to institute a program, in October, November timeframe, before salt shortages start to happen, before there's difficulties in that supply, is if we could make a dual purpose out of those blue paper recycling buckets and allow residents to fill up on salt prior to the season. I think it would be a very minimal cost impact for the town and provide the availability of salt for residents in a quick and easy way as a resident benefit, to benefit from the buying power of the town, and whether or not we're allowed to distribute retail commodities we buy on the state contract, if we're allowed to do that. But it's something that I think it might be a tremendous benefit for the resident at very minimal cost to the town to give away salt in the beginning of the season.
You're suggesting to give it for free, or at least give it
It's not free. They're paying for it.
Everyone's paying for it anyway.
They're paying for it anyway. So
but to give residents the availability, so if you fill up, your blue recycling can in the beginning and put it in your garage, give you the ability to put 40, 50 pounds of salt, get you through the whole season. You don't ever have to worry about my sidewalk isn't safe for residents to walk on because I just couldn't find salt to buy, and help residents keep their sidewalks and their properties safe at a significantly lower cost than it would cost them to do it on their own. Yeah. So it cost around $1.20 for that, 50-pound bale of salt, where it may cost me $100 as a resident to buy it.
Right, so you pay $10,000, you get $1.20 back. That's good.
Yeah.
What am I going to use for my recycling when I have all that salt?
Well, maybe you can transfer it into a different can, but it was sort of, the idea of bringing recycling, and then maybe being able to take something home from the depot. So, what you do with it once you get home, that's up to you, Yitz. Yeah. So if we could, between you and the manager, if we could work out with DPW maybe a proposal for how that program might work and if it would be feasible.
Make it happen. Okay. We have nothing under new business, nothing under communications. Committee reports? Does anybody have any?
I gave my PPRB report.
The Sea Lane Special Management Group met this past week. They have begun to do their planning for the Memorial Day event, which will be another exciting time in Teaneck on Cedar Lane, right after the ceremonies on the green. performers and all that other kind of stuff. All those details are being worked on. The same organization that has helped us, Morton Ray Productions, are putting it together again. They did a great job in past years, and I think we're rehiring them again. There are several individuals on the board that may ask not to be reappointed due to work considerations. We'll clarify that probably in the next meeting or so, which I will then report to the council.
Go ahead.
Senior Citizens Advisory Board is a very stimulating, active group of older people. I say that because I'm such a young person. And I've finally made a couple of meetings, and I look forward to talking with them about the concerns that they have. And the next meeting is Thursday, so I can't wait.
Councilman Short, next item is council listed items. Councilman Schwartz.
Mayor, I have just two small reports. The Let's Move Task Force first meeting has been scheduled for Monday, March 3rd at 7:30 at the Rhoda Center. And the other thing, just to follow up, the Social Service Advisory Board, the funding for funding from the Hyatt Fund, we had talked about allocating money from FDU, and I don't know what happened to that request. We all said yes, but we didn't move forward, so just want to keep it on the radar.
Appropriation.
I thought we agreed to do that.
No, we did, but we haven't. There's been no movement since. Don't we have to do a resolution or no?
I don't think we need. No.
We don't. Oh, okay.
It's a trust fund.
So it's done.
It's a trust. I'm follow up on it.
Okay.
All right. Anyone else? Okay. Council listed items. Shared Councilman Schwartz is missing. Who put on Apple Mortgage Cake?
I did. Okay, so Apple Mortgage, does everyone know the story of Apple Mortgage Cake?
Movie?
Yes, and it's soon to be a movie and soon to be a featured premiere before television event in Teaneck. Myself, Barbara Ostra, and Liz Santos from the Chamber of Commerce and Rotary Club have been working on a project to bring the movie premiere to Teaneck. Cedar Lane Cinemas has agreed to allow us to use it for minimal cost, and the network, UPT TV, has offered funding for promotion and costs, whatever costs there are for the event. The date that we're looking at to have this is Friday, April 24th. It would be at Cedar Lane Cinemas, and the reason why that date was chosen is because the movie is premiering on television on Sunday, and it was the only date that the actress, Kimberly Elise, would be available to actually come to the premiere. And Angela Logan will be available that day as well. So I just wanted to make council aware that this was in the plans. The idea actually came from Liz Santos, and we had our first meeting last week, and it's kind of just moving forward, so I just wanted to make you aware of this event.
Gotcha. ACM Forum Partnerships?
I know that it was mentioned at the beginning of the council meeting, last council meeting, and I'm sure it was mentioned today, but I just wanted to make sure that the public is aware that these Affordable Care Act forums are different than the forums from the past. There will actually be people available to enroll residents in the Affordable Care Act. So I just wanted to make that point known. And when this was originally presented to council, we were looking at partnering with other organizations. Actually, the National Coalition of 100 Black Women approached me about doing a partnership. So we're reaching out to constituency groups so that we could actually get residents that are in need of this service.
Okay, alternate side parking for snow, Councilman Katz.
So I absolutely got a lot of comments on the last snowfall. I still continue to get it about the streets and the amount of snow that's piled up. I kind of agree with what Councilman Pruitt said as far as, we worked very hard. We had a lot of positive response, and I have gotten a lot of positive response as well. But some of the takeaways of concern are the fact that right now the streets are too narrow for sometimes a vehicle to pass, especially with a car parked on the street, and certainly an emergency vehicle to pass. The intention of the original parking snow ordinance, 18 years ago, maybe it was a little longer than that, was to try to get the cars off the street, and we all know the reasons why. But now we're having another situation where it's very challenging to have cars passing. So the question is, do we enhance our program? You could say that, like someone said, this snowstorm is an anomaly, but the truth be told is every year there's something. And then, I don't think we have to debate it or discuss it now, but maybe if council is in agreement, maybe we can instruct the manager to take some of the lessons learned from the last few storms and come back with some additions to our snow ordinance to present to the council. Meaning, okay, we have the no parking, during snow emergencies. Now, from October to X, or from November to after snowfall, you can only park on the even side of the street, or whatever it is.
So I think that I agree with you to talk to the police department, instruct the manager to talk to the police department and DPW to figure out better ways for snow removal. I'm all in favor of that.
Right. And I definitely got a lot more, and I don't know if this is we changed vendors or new, but I definitely got a lot more "they blocked my driveway" comments in the last two storms.
That's just because they're angry.
What?
That's just because people are angry.
Because a lot more snow?
Yeah, there's just a lot more snow and people are angry.
Yeah,
and I've had this conversation with family members as well as friends who come up and yell at you, and I said, all right, so what do you want us to do? Like lift up the blade when we come to the driveway?
No, and I explained that to them. Listen, I had a conversation.
Into the street.
I had a conversation with the manager. Obviously, we have 12,000 cutouts, which makes it, they're not doing a surgery. They're trying to do as many miles of the street as they can, as quick as they can, to try to beat the storm. I understand that.
I think people are frustrated. I'm frustrated. This morning I was upset.
Right.
I wish the snow would stop. But I think that the idea of, it can't be helped. If somebody tells me how you get...
So I just want to confirm we have 4 council members that are in support of asking the manager to maybe look towards the police department and come back with some additional tweakings or additions to this.
100%, but we're not fixing the snow in the driveway.
No, I understand that.
We're not fixing that. Don't make that promise. We're not fixing that.
No, but I do actually have one more addition to this, and this is we have a situation like on Vandalinda where there's access routes to the hospital that I don't know if this can wait. As far as I would think that this is something we should do now, which is temporary no parking or something like that on Vandalinda. You got to be careful how you do it because there's a lot of cars there. People are patients, hospital employees, visitors. And Vandalinda is, and some of the other arteries. It's turning into
the thing that I've been doing around town is the moment it happens and I see an unsafe situation, I just send the manager an email and he goes and evaluates it.
Yeah, no, and the manager's been, listen, he could tell you I've sent him emails at all times and he's been very responsive to every single one. But maybe for some of the arteries that are going into the hospital,
I agree with you.
We can at least create a no parking on one side, temporary no parking signs on one side.
There's only parking on one side.
Yeah, there's only parking on one side. When you're coming down Vandalinda from Queen Anne, there's no parking.
From Queen Anne all the way to Teaneck Road?
Teaneck Road. But if you're going up from Teaneck Road to Queen Anne, there's parking on the right side. So unless you want to do no parking anywhere.
There's parking up to just a little past Alvin, that other street that goes through. Is Mildred or Chadwick?
So there's parking on both sides or just one side?
One side. So along the hospital property, you only can park on the hospital side. We've also been in contact with hospital officials, and we've told them that they should have ambulances use Johnson Avenue, which is a wider street, They can go up Johnson, make a right, and take Alvin straight into the hospital driveway.
Right. No, and that works to obviously a organization or an ambulance squad that can get the message and possibly send it out. But not all emergencies going into the hospitals come in via an ambulance. Some people are family members driving them, etc. And from what I see and what I'm hearing is vandalism is a mess. Especially prime time from like 9 in the morning till 4. So.
Just a quick comment on shared services. We got a nice note from the Board of Education last week because one of the solar panels fell down, and we lent them the bucket trucks to get the snow off the rest of the solar panels. And I mean, that was an opportunity to do a little cooperation, and they appreciate it, right, Howard?
Correct.
Just to go back to the snow removal, in addition to coming up with some sort of plan, can we see what other municipalities are doing with respect to parking, and how is the even side versus the odd side decided? Is it just arbitrary, or?
I don't even know if that would be the solution. I mean, do we have to start now? I have to tell you, I think we've done a great job training the residents as far as the no parking during snow. I don't think, to the point where I'm getting emails, how come I have 5 cars parked on my block and they're not enforcing it? Meaning, as opposed to before where people were upset that they got tickets, now people are upset why other people are not getting tickets. So I think we've done, I don't know how long it would take for them to start thinking, okay, it's Monday is even, it's Tuesday. So that's why, right.
And then if we have to put signage up, my concern is I think we'd actually have to put signage up. Literally putting signs on every block in
it's thousands of
for
dollars.
The eventuality that literally may affect a handful of days throughout the year, that it's it can be a very heavy-handed approach to what is a very short-term inconvenience. And I'm leery about either
that's why I said let the police come back with their
invasive solutions, because it literally is just a handful of days throughout the year that we can, because of how well we generally remove snow, that I think we can live with it better than we would be able to live with a heavy-handed solution.
I would like to hear what the police, if the police agree with you, or if the police agree and say, there isn't more need, because I know there were streets that we had to turn around on, we just couldn't get by. Just because people chose to park right opposite the other, classic New York City style, just gridlock.
I think also one of the issues that we ran into, and this is something that the township put out on the website, put out on the Nixle alert, that I think I saw on Facebook as well, I had shared with the community, that when we park on a street, we have, by state law, an obligation to make sure that there's 15 feet of unobstructed, clear road space opposite our vehicle. And if you don't have 15 feet of road between you and the car you're parking directly across, you're not allowed to park there. And we can tow you. And we started towing cars. Problem is, the impound lot where we towed cars to got full. And whether we need to find, additional towing contractors that have the ability to do that, to have greater storage, what have you. But if a road's impassable to emergency vehicles, we're going to tow it, and we ought to. And, we were out very actively removing vehicles until there was just nowhere else to put them. So it's something that...
Look, I think this, regardless of what the police say or any other ideas, I think this may just be an opportunity for people on a block to get together and talk to each other and say, hey, guys, let's all park on this side of the street. That's all. People, 10 houses, just talk to each other. Make a phone call, Say, hey, we'll just park on this side of the street. And that'll solve everything.
Because most blocks, you know which one of your neighbors actually park on the street.
Shared services.
Okay, shared services, Pagoda. I'd like to. I know there was a report done years ago with potential of merging a police department, Pagoda and Little Ferry. That was obviously the report. It's in summarized saying that it's nothing to worth pursuing, and I agree with that. What I'd like to do, if I get some nodding heads, is ask township manager to reach out to Bogota to see what low-level or lower-lying fruit that we can turn to other towns to share, whether it be the building department, whether it be the purchasing department, whether it be the finance department, the CFO and whatnot. I mean, obviously, Bogota spends quite a bit of money on those services. I was studying their information, and if we could reach out to them or other surrounding towns and not focus on those big-ticket items, but to focus on the smaller stuff that we can, we can take over for them, and we can supplement our budgets as well. And maybe it's not feasible, but if it's just something that they can reach out to, being that they are our southerly neighbors, and if I can afford nodding heads on that, I'd like to at least entertain that in that regard.
Also, I meet monthly with managers of contiguous towns. I meet with Bogota, Hackensack, Inglewood, and we're going to be adding some others to the group. So we are constantly discussing opportunities for shared service. So we have some things coming up with Inglewood on possibly some opportunities to share services. So once they ripen a little bit more, I'll bring them to the council.
Township manager's report.
Okay, so the budget, I just want to provide a summary of what we've done so far on the budget in our meetings. We started with our 4 budget meetings on January 9th, started with the budget, with the department head introductions, where we brought in all the department heads. They addressed the council. They gave council some information on their work product over 2013, and I thought it was very helpful for council to hear that information directly from the department heads. Then we had the manager's presentation of the 2014 budget. Council requested some information. Council requested information on snow removal costs. I provided that information on snow removal costs. Council also requested information on Oprah's comparison on between 2013 and 2012 Oprah's. The clerk is working on obtaining that information. The council also requested information on what the department head ideas would be on shared services with neighboring communities. I'm working on that as well with the department heads, and I will have that for the council shortly, most likely on the 20th. I'll have that information for the council. January 16th, we had a presentation from the legal department, Mr. Terrence. We had a discussion about the tax appeal defense for Glen Point. I've been working on that issue. We've discussed it in closed session, and I will be making a presentation to council on that and seeking representation for the township in those tax appeals. We had a presentation from the police department. We had a discussion regarding the special law enforcement officer positions, SLEO 1 positions, and possibly using those SLEOs for court security. Council also requested information on the breakage for 2013, the salary breakage. I have that information. I'll distribute that in the package that I'll provide you on the 20th. Council also requested information on overtime costs and a breakdown of different categories. I have that. I'll distribute that as well. Council requested information on fleet inventory for the police department. I provided that to the council on the 21st, but I'll include it in the package again. Also, that's something I'll be bringing up at our next meeting as well. For ordering police cars, there's a cutoff date that we must order police cars by, and that date is March 14th. So I'll be bringing that up again. No, you can't get the police cars. After March 14th, if you don't order police cars on the state contract through Ford, then we'll have a difficult time getting police cars.
Through Ford or through
Chrysler or Dodge. Yes. If we don't order them by then you may not be able to get them. So And that's existed.
That's a couple $100,000 out of the budget. Wow, outstanding. Let's just sleep on that one.
But we'll talk about that. We also have a presentation from Department of Public Works. Council requested that the DPW meet with Board of Education officials to discuss how we could do some shared services in plowing and plowing parking lots and streets. We've had that meeting scheduled several times, but it's had to be canceled because of snow and other issues. So that meeting will be rescheduled. Also, at that meeting, we had a discussion of whether or not we should hire the 4 people or 2 to 4 people that the DPW was short. At that time, council had said to hire them, but at a later meeting, we decided to wait a little bit on that. On January 23rd, we had a presentation from the fire department. Council discussed possibly having per diem firefighters. Council also requested information on the impact of response time when units are out of service. I have that information. I'll be providing that on the 20th. Council discussed the staffing concern for uniformed firefighters. Council also discussed the dispatching of the fire department calls and police calls, and possibly having the county provide that service. I have a report on that. I'll provide that on the 20th as well. Council requested information as to the amount of calls for service to FDU, malicious false alarms, and other calls to FDU. I provided that to the council already, but I'll include that in the 20th report as well. Council discussed cutting expenses for new hires. Council also requested that the manager check with the county. We had this was kind of like a side discussion. We started talking about the sidewalks and the ramps and the installation of the ADA ramps prior to the paving of the roadway. I met with the township engineer on that issue, and I'll provide council with information on that. Apparently the county is only responsible, or has been responsible, only for the roadway surface between curb and curb, and that's been an agreement going back to the 70s, and I discussed that with the engineer. I'll provide you more information on that. Council requested a cost breakdown of the $400,000, the additional $400,000 for the capital budget on the old police headquarters renovation. Councilman Katz also recommended purchase of only 1 bucket loader, so we were having discussions about that. We have 2 in the capital budget. And we had a presentation from the Recreation Department. Council requested a history of the last 4 years of overtime expenses. I have that as well.
One other thing I had requested, we have requested from Mr. Gluck, a report on outstanding violations.
You had a report from Mr. Gluck on outstanding violations. He's working on that report.
And also, we'll have that by the 20th as well?
That I don't know if we're going to have that by the 20th. I'm going to try to have that on the 20th, as he said in his meeting.
Well, the 20th is tomorrow. The 28th is, I'm fine to go with it.
His report, that report is more complex. He has to try to identify exactly how much the fines are owed, how much is owed in fines. Apparently the software just keeps adding
like if you don't close something out, the clock keeps ticking.
Yes.
The meter's running.
Yes.
And we need to get better at not just letting the meter run, because then it's easy to look at this violations report and say, oh, it's all crap, you know what, let's not even pay attention to it. When we get better numbers, we'll pay attention closer to better numbers. And so we need to find a way to make sure we're getting...
Yeah, well, the most important thing, as Mr. Gluck stated, is compliance. So one of the things we seek is for compliance with the Uniform Construction Code, as opposed to merely imposing a fine.
Well, the idea is that the fine is supposed to help us ensure compliance. right? You avoid the fine by complying.
If we can just get the report, I think that'll be...
We will get the report.
The other thing that we asked for during the first budget presentations, each department head basically came up and gave a little, bullet points, like crime was down 7%. If we could just get, and we requested at the time, if we could get those in writing.
But I had said that information, the same information that they provided, would be in the annual report. All the information they provided is in that annual report.
With a couple exceptions, Chief Wilson had been very specific as far as crime statistics, and none of that is mentioned in the police department.
I have a report on some crime statistics, and I'll provide you with that report.
Excellent.
Okay.
That's it. William, that's it, right?
And finally, we reviewed the library director came in. We reviewed his budget, reviewed the manager's budget, and reviewed the township clerk's budget.
All done?
And that's it.
Okay. Township attorney's report? None?
What about the manager's report?
He just did.
I mean, his annual report.
You want to go over it?
No, but...
Also, the annual report. The annual report is available. It's due today. It's available and it'll be online tomorrow.
Wonderful. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor? Aye.
Any opposed?
I have